Here we are. Good evening, everybody, from wherever you happen to be in the globe. Tell me, first of all, before we really get going here, how does the level sound? I'm going. Oops, you can see I have a different mic placement than normal. So, trying to get this thing going. I'm using entirely the Deity Connect system tonight, the interview kit. I have the S Mic 2 right there next to the camera, and I'm going to be doing a few different things. One of the questions that came through from one of the sound forums online is I got a question of, can you use the Deity Connect wireless microphone body pack BPTX with a microdot connector on any other lav brand other than Deity? Well, it should be that, you know, you have the center pin, which is the hot, and then the chassis is ground, and that should be pretty universal. But we're going to test it here in a couple minutes. So everything sounds good. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing going. Let me see what my latency looks like. When you see my hand, say something in chat. I'm gonna hold up a certain number of fingers. I want you to tell me how many fingers you see, because I'm going in ultra low latency mode for this stream, and I hope that it will be pretty fast. I'm hoping that it's going to be pretty good. So as soon as you see a number of fingers, put it in chat. I want to see what the delay is. Okay. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Already a 12-second delay. Okay, well, I tell you what then. Either we have... Okay, good. We got some twos. So it's about maybe a 18-second delay or so, roughly. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on out tonight. I'm going to start by answering a question online that I got, and it's by David. David was indeed the guy that spotted the... that was curious online about whether or not you could use the Connect system with other brand of lavs. So we're going to start straight off and go right for the throat with the DPA 6060. I do have multiple different DPA microphones here. Unfortunately, I only have DPA branded lavs. I don't have any others to try aside from the Deity ones here. I have Deity and I have DPA. Those are the only two. I guess I like D brands. Okay, so there we go. We are connecting it up. Hopefully you should hear that online too. Tell me if you can hear that. It's going to sound terrible. I'm going to bring it down. Why don't I just do that? Do it the right way. Mix it in there when we see the need. All right, so this is me talking into the DPA 6060. It should sound really good. Actually, my levels are coming through really hot. If you got a good level on me, I'm going to bring I'm going to bring this down ever so slightly. My levels are peaking like crazy over here. So 27, and that should be better. All right. So, well, still it's peaking like crazy. Oh, whatever. If you hear me okay, then it's all right. Just bought the NTG4. Yeah, not happy. Seems a bit dark. Did you see my my comparison of the NTG4 Plus versus the 3 and the 5? The 4 Plus, if you put it next to those two microphones, it's not going to sound nearly as good as the other two. The purpose of that is for if you need a microphone that can basically generate its own cell power, you want a Rode microphone, then basically your options are NTG2 or NTG4. NTG4 you plug up. On the inside of the XLR, there's a little... In case anyone else is wondering, you charge it up through a USB, a micro jack on the inside of the XLR, and that's how you charge it up. NTG2, you charge up, you just throw batteries in there. So micro SD for the HDTX. I'll get into that one here in a second. But right now, this is the 6060 you're listening to, only the 6060. So that's a DPA microphone going through a microdot, going straight into the body pack transmitter right here. So there we go. I'll go ahead and swap out mics to something else real quick, which is going to sound like total garbage here. Let me just do this for a second, bring up a different mic. Okay, now I'm on the HDTX, and I'm going to swap out mics. I'm going to still keep the same exact connector, the microdot, and I'm just going to swap out the microphones. To answer you, what brands of micro SD? Here's what I would say regarding the brands. As long as it is a good brand, I'd go for it. Personally, I usually just go for. I'm boring. What I do is I go to Amazon and I say, what brands do I recognize? And then I always look at the number of reviews. And if it has 13,000, 4.7 reviews out of 5, I look at it and I say, you know what? This is also the same brand that is compatible with Sound Devices stuff. And I think almost all of my SD cards are SanDisk. So, I mean, that's just, but there's various different good brands. As long as it has the speed, which pretty much any should be able to this day and age, because most of the time we're dealing with regards to cards, it should be no problem to be able to get audio going. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot to get audio recorded. Now, if you're going to be recording a whole lot of channels, then you may end up having to get a faster card, but just a typical, I always say class 10 or higher. What is it? What is it? The XD? I can't remember what it is. XD something. Whatever it is. There's like 2 different ones, 2 different letters, and one of them is class C or class 10 with the 1, 2, or 3 after. Just get the 3 and get a good brand. If you want one that is going to be reliable, look up the recommendations for sound recorders like the Sound Devices series or Zaxcom. Look at what they use for media. I think most of the time, a lot of the brands, if they use SD cards at all, they're going to be using, there's going to have some sort of compatibility on their website. All right, I'm going to bring up this is a 4071. Oh, well, that's interesting. I wonder if that's the Lav. I used these when I was teaching a class. And some people jacked up my my gear. All right, so we'll troubleshoot that real quick, because the 6060 had no issue. I'm sure you heard that a second ago. I don't see anything that stands out as being bad. Same exact adapter that was screwed in there nicely. So this time we're going to been screwed once with an Amazon SD card. Well, here's the thing. Was it an Amazon, or was it an Amazon, one of the ones that's drop shipped by one of their affiliates, or what do they call it? The Amazon Associates? No. Fulfilled by Amazon. There's various sellers on Amazon. I've not ever run into any issues with an Amazon purchase. I got a bootleg, some sort of one of those memory cards that it was a USB stick, and I bought it back in the day that it was like 32 gig was huge, and I bought it, and when I first got it, the packaging didn't seem right, because instead of having to break open the blister pack with scissors or something like that, it was just an unsnap on the front. And I said, that's too easy for people to manipulate. So I took it, I went online and got myself one of those softwares that checks the actual capacity, and sure as the world, it was I think a 1 gigabyte that someone had flashed the firmware on as a 32 gig, and they were selling it. So I gave them horrible rating on Amazon, and Amazon gave me my money back. Or no, that might have been eBay, actually, now that I think about that, because Amazon has never given me an issue. All right, so let's see if this is going to be any better. I'm going to go ahead and PFL, or rather solo. This is still having an issue. I wonder if this... I use a lot of these Lavs for the classes I teach in the real world. Just 2 days ago, I taught a boom class that was for union members, and I go into a lot of different detail, as I'm sure you can imagine. But one of the things that I'll do, like in the wireless class I do, is I bring in a whole bunch of Lavs, and sometimes if people don't treat them properly, then they can mess up. But anyway, this Lav, I'm going to go to a different DPA microphone and see if it's working correctly, because this was a 4071, and I have not ever had an issue with it before. We used it, what was that Lav class that we did? The Lav class we did was back in November, something like that. Uh-oh, who's texting me? Someone, that's actually Andrew from Deity. He was going to be a surprise guest here. Okay. All right, this is brand new news, straight from Andrew. My review, as you know, I was pretty. I don't pull punches. I'm not one of those that plays nicely. If I'm pretty passionate about something, I will make it known. Well, Andrew just now texted me and said we are changing the tape, so the duct tape is gonna be gone. We had a meeting. It will be a hyperallergenic medical tape in the next batches, so they're gonna get something new. That's good. I will say I'll say that's great. In the stream now. So here I am texting the guy. But anyway, that way I have now turned my silencer on. The phone is now silenced. That was my mistake. You know that sound people are always supposed to silence their phone. And when you know, I didn't. So I should be ashamed of myself, but I'm not. All right, so here we go. This is our next thing. This is a 4061. This is actually the ruggedized version. So this is a 40. This is I think the other one was a 4071. This is the rugged. So if this is what is that? The model number of the rugged version of DPAs, the 40 series would be a 46 something. Let me hear what this one sounds like real quick. I'm gonna PFL or yeah, it's having the same issue. So I'll bring it up so that way you can at least hear it. So there you go. Makes me wonder. This you can hear it. Makes me wonder what's going on with these DPAs. So it makes me wonder now if I were. This is a good test. So it looks like, David, so far the only one I've had success with was the 6060. So what's the transmit power at? Transmit is powers all the way at the very bottom floor. It is at 10 milliwatts, and it's sitting right here. By the way, welcome to the stream. Everybody who's here, we have, it looks like 11 people. Whoa. I don't remember having this lob before. That is not a 61. I think it's labeled as a 61. Yeah, heavy duty black fluorescence. Yeah. In one of my classes, somebody didn't pack up my lobs correctly. So one of my lobs is now missing. It's now vanished. Great. So, okay, so this is the slim. Let's try the slim. We're going to, of course, 86 the TA5 connector. And we're going to plug this in and see what happens here. So the microdot connector we're using here is the DA35, which is compatible with microdot lavaliers. And we just got through plugging it up. Which side is the one with the dot on it? There it is. All right, I'm going to PFL this and see if the Slim has an issue. Sim has the same issue. I'll bring it up and show you. I'm sure you can hear that. So, okay. I don't think I have a DPA adapter that goes to a 3.5. If I had a microdot, I could solder it and basically make one, but so far we're batting that we're not batting very well. We're batting very low average right now. We'll go ahead and try the 4080, which is a cardioid plant style microphone, but it's also a DPA. And we're going to at least see if that would work. These are all the same configurations, same exact pinout. So I wonder, none of these are core except the 6060. I wonder if core has anything to do with it. I don't think so. It's Andrew from Deity was going to pop in here and he was going to say hello to us and he was going to answer questions. But I'm going to have to have a talk with him about this and see if he can look into the firmware. Let me bring this up and I'm going to check it real quick before I bring it in. Yep, same exact thing. So apparently there is an issue with DPA Lavs and playing right with the Connect if you use a Deity adapter. So if you got one that was made by That's just going into the Connect here. If you were to get one that's made by DPA, you may have better results. But as of right now, that's the way it looks. It looks like the only lavalier microphone that is cooperating with it that is a DPA is indeed the 6060. So I don't know why that is either. I can't think of why. The only thing that hits my mind as being one of the reasons why it could happen would be because it has core. That doesn't really matter a whole lot. All right, so I've ignored a lot of the chat so far. Let me scroll up through this, and we'll take it from the top. Okay, always been a problem with the interference with the Connect. Okay. Wish I had that Faraday cage material still. Because one of the things I could do, I could remote the antennas. It would be an interesting test to see if I remoted the antenna off of the top of the Connect here and put it through an SMA extension. I could run it away and see if it's the antenna that's interfering or if it's the actual body unit. Because if I still had I gave my Faraday cage material to my wife. She did something with it. I'm sure very creative. But whatever was done with it, I don't have it anymore. So back in after I did my video, which was it's a video you see. I talk about Faraday material at one point. I forgot what it is now, but whatever that video was, I talk about it and I show Faraday cage material. And after that, my wife said, "Oh, can I have this?" And I said, "Yeah, I've already used it for what I was going to be using it for. So there's some left." But what you could, I would like to actually test and see if I wrap this in Faraday material and remote the antenna, if it's actually, you know what? Okay. I'm going to make a quick note here. I'm going to say basically, I'm going to try to add that to my Connect review when I do it, provided somebody doesn't beat me to it online. Faraday RF with antenna remoted. Okay, I'll do that as a test. You know that I love doing tests that no one else does online. So, okay, so RF. Jeez, what is up with my nose? Faraday remote antenna. Okay, that will be everything I need. Okay, so note. I'm designing. I thought I was already done designing the test for the HDTX and the Connect system, but apparently there's more to do. There's always more to do. Okay, so beta levels now. Yes. What's your recommendation? I've already answered that one. Awesome advice. Thanks. Love your videos. You're great. Thank you. Carry on. This is awesome. Yeah. Certain lavs just bug out. Yeah. And that's why the Connect is tough to find the right lav interference. Makes me wonder. I don't think that the Connect does anything different. I don't think there's... I'll investigate it. I don't have the information in front of me. I honestly expected it to work. I just expected it to naturally work. And I'm kind of surprised about it. I'm going to have to test some stuff and figure it out. Because, like, one of the... I'll show you a picture real quick. I'll show you on my phone. One of the things I'll do when I'm trying to make certain things work and checking compatibility and things like that is I will use... Like, this was when I was verifying that the COS 11 was going to be working correctly. So I used... I had to get a COS 11 TA5 and convert it over to record on the sound devices, but I was verifying that my configuration was correct and that it was actually going to work, and I tested it on the Deity HDTX and it was working just fine. So then I was able to record on the sound devices. But this will show you right here. Let me go over here. You see what I did is I have this adapter that I use. There it is. And it breaks out the TA5 into 5 little bitty alligator clips. And there's a jumper over there. And I basically found the wiring for it. and made it work. And then I went into the 3.5 millimeter 1/8 inch up at the top on the Connect, and I verified that it was working. So I was like, all right, there's something in the cable that I'm using that went to the sound devices, and I figured what that was and made it work. But anyway, that's me tinkering and not taking no for an answer. But I'm going to see if I can figure out what that is, and I'm going to run a few tests, see if I can figure out what it is, because by the time we get down to the review, hopefully we're going to have the information for that. I started shooting the review for the HDTX last Wednesday. I wasn't ultimately happy with the test that I did, mainly because when I did a range test and I kept having semi-tractor trailers go right in front of me. I had two guys helping me out. We shot in an exterior location. I went driving, but there was people on the road. So this Wednesday, I have the same two guys coming over, and we're probably going to drive up about an hour north into the North Georgia mountains and try to find some remote place and do some testing. The thing is that I want to do a line of sight test. I want to do two things: low latency, maybe medium latency, and high latency, and see what the difference in the range is. Because supposedly high latency is also good in heavy RF areas. Well, just the other day, I also did a shoot with those guys last Wednesday where we were in a heavy RF area. And when we were there, I didn't have any issues. I mean, we were able to get pretty good range line of sight. And that was probably 150 feet or so. But as soon as we were no longer line of sight, that's where 2.4 gigahertz usually has an issue, is punching through walls, punching through extra surfaces, and that's just the nature of it, unfortunately. Been having technical difficulties with my brother's audio. It turns out it's the computer. Okay, so no off-brand, had about tuning secured. Yes, I get offers to review stuff all the time, the cheaper stuff, and I usually just say no. There have been videos that I've made where a manufacturer says, hey, I'd like you to actually try something out. Would you try it for us? And I say, I'm not going to review that thing. And they'll say, no, don't do that. Would you just, if we send it to you and you just, go through it, and they basically ask if I can go through it and tell them what my thoughts are. And I say, if you want to send me something, I'll hit record on a video. I'm not going to go dig deep, and I'll just kind of figure it all out live and in the fly. And I'll do that for, somebody who wants to send me something just to look at. And a lot of manufacturers that send me certain products like that will really appreciate the feedback. They are very appreciative when you give them feedback like that. And some of them will say, well, we're going to actually put a hold on that product, and we're going to go back and do some redesign on it. And at that point, I've heard that when they finally released the product, it's had some of my changes in there. So that's cool. Okay, well, Aaron, glad you were able to make it to the live stream. I know that I'm pretty far behind now. Made it live. There's Nick, which I've already been talking. I'm so far behind. Is there an advantage to the A10 system? Oh, let me tell you, I love the A10 system. The sound mixer I'm working with right now, I actually just got through wrapping on a show last week, and that sound mixer and he uses the A10 system. That system is solid as a rock. We didn't really have any issues with it at all. We were able to, even in loud circumstances when you might need to hardline something, we would turn on the pad, but then he could always bring it up on his end. So my transmitter typically can't, the A10 transmitter doesn't transmit on a boom below about 36 dB of gain. Well, what we were able to do is I would put the pad on, the 20 dB pad, and then he would bring me up more on his end for the dialogue. But because the noise floor is pretty much zilch on that, then he would bring me down, and I wouldn't clip at all when we did our gunshots and our gun scenes. So it's but the A10 is solid. I love the form factor of it. I mean, I like it honestly better than the Cube. The Cube design, that like the the HMAs by Electrosonics, the Zaxcom, what is it? The TRX 742.5, 743, whatever it is now. I think 743 now. It is, of all the ones I've used, and I've used them basically all, I like the A10 the best. The A10 to me just sounds really, is almost as good as cabled. It really does. Now, it is a single channel on a transmitter with a dual receiver, and the biggest issue I've run into it is the filters. They say that, oh, just put filters on your cables and it's going to be fine. Well, it's not quite that easy. Filters do end up being an issue. They're now under the version 3 filter. I will have the antenna, like if you imagine this is the A10, I will have the cable coming out here, and I will have it running over to the boom microphone. And what I'll end up having to do is, if the cable's doing this, I'll get hiss, even with the filters engaged, and even when we've had some custom filters installed on EMC on EMC connectors on one end and the filters on the other end. And regardless, whatever configuration we do, if we have the cable, we'll have to loop this over, so that way this antenna is looped around and sometimes held in with like a rubber band or something against the cable right here to eliminate the buzz. So if this was the A10, the antenna would be right here. The cable would go up to the boom microphone, and then I would have to loop the antenna up and over in order to make it work without a hiss. That's a workaround. It's not ideal. I hate having to do it, and I'll hear it in a heartbeat if I'm on set, and I'll say, wait a minute, what just happened? Oh, no, my antenna came out. So I'll end up throwing a rubber band or something around that. But it is unfortunately, it's a first generation thing, audio limited A10. And I did ask Curtis Judd. I said, have you run into that? And he hasn't used his a lot as a boom, so he hasn't had that experience with it. But there are other boom operators I've talked to. Kevin Cherokee is one of them. That he was, he's definitely wanting to make sure he gets the right settings and everything right. That I mean, he's big time boom op, and he came out to set a few times, and he showed us some of the things that they were working on, trying to make things even better for the A10, and he's just a terrific guy, terrific boom operator in every way. And we've used some of his tweaks, but I'm still running into issues sometimes with the noise. I'm wondering if when Audio Limited comes out with let's say A20 or an A11, whatever they decide to call it, if it's going to have that done, that you won't have to mess with the filters anymore, or internally filter it. In all honesty, I don't know why they don't do that. There's probably a reason, but I don't understand what that would be. I don't know why you have to have a connector that's external in order to make that work for the filter. I don't understand that. I might need to call them and ask them because I'm between shows right now. I could probably do that. So it's the Connect. It's not the Lav. Okay. So the Connect actually has. So what I'll do is I'll play around with it and see if I can if I mess with Faraday cage material. Faraday cloth, and if I remote the antennas, I'll see if I can figure out what it is and where it is. Because if I could figure that out, it'd be really cool to be able to figure what that is. And you see from the text message I got a little while ago that my rant from the video released this morning about duct tape, I had to do that twice, including ending the video in a fit of rage, which I tell you. When I saw the duct tape in there, I said, I'm going to have to address this one. But you see how quickly Deity has already adjusted it, and they're going to be using hyperallergenic. I don't even know. I gotta find out the story behind how duct tape ended up in the Lav kit to begin with. It's hilarious to me. All right, so no punch pulling is what we love. Okay. Speaking of SD cards, I'm testing out my new USB drives. 16 gigabytes of storage. Okay. So 14.8 gigs of storage. Okay. Opposed to 2. Okay, well, that's good. I'm always running out of hard drive space, mainly because I don't ever get rid of my my raw footage. I have right back behind that camera, behind the thing, I have a whole bunch of hard drives, and I will constantly back up and all kinds of things. Okay, so RF crosstalk. Well, the only that's possible. It could have been RF crosstalk, but I kind of doubt it. And the reason I doubt that it was crosstalk was simply because I was only using really the one transmitter at the time. I brought down the other, and it wasn't changing as I brought it to and fro, towards and away from the other transmitter. But it is something to investigate. I'll play around with that for certain, because now that you've piqued my interest, now I have to figure it out. So Where's the power? The transmitter power at? The transmitter power was at 10 milliwatts, and on both the transmitters and the receivers, because transmitter there, transmitter in my hand, receiver right there. It's 1 foot away, so it shouldn't have any kind of an issue. Okay, definitely an issue with the transmitter. Remember my years of wearing Lavs. Okay. Bring out the cost 11. I need to catch up with this. Okay. No, man, I've been a problem with a lot of Lavs. Yeah, it's probably the Connect then. It's probably just something to do with, like you said, there's probably something to do. I don't think Lavs are shielded for certain frequency ranges. I don't think that's the case. So, okay, so your brother's audio is fixed. Good. All right, then digital bias. Only two I know that will work with it is COS 11D and MKE2 Gold. Okay. Alejandro's here. How's it going? Things I've never said. Gave my yeah. Yeah, I gave my Faraday material to my wife. My wife is actually, she's a very clever girl. She will do a lot of really cool things with, I'll say, well, I'm done with this. I only have a scrap left. I have an idea, and she'll find a use for something. So that Faraday material, I need to ask her where it is. If she hasn't used it yet, then maybe I can get it back and do a couple of things with it. However, the sound with the Connect, when I had the RF power, the maximum gain in the receivers is too close to consumer grade recorder. Yes, I heard about that. I heard about that with some of the Zooms, that the Connect system was actually interfering with that, and people blamed Zoom. It's amazing to me how you'll have transmitters and receivers next to recorders. You'll have a whole bunch of them. Somebody releases a new product, and everything suddenly changes, and they always blame everything other than the new product. Remember, the Deity Connect system has only been out for less than a year now. It's still a baby as far as wireless units go. They've come a long way, but they're in a few generations from now, it's gonna be solid. I mean, they're 2.4 gigahertz is still not an ultra busy realm for wireless. It's not really overly populated. A lot of manufacturers are not creating products in that. A few of them are. Obviously, Rode is. There's geez, who else is there? I don't remember the other ones. But then the biggest issue I run into is I'm very used to pro audio, and I'm not someone that knows just endless amounts about the consumer and prosumer stuff. So I do apologize. But anyway, I'm gonna see if I can figure out what that is at least. You sound like you have a bit of a cold. Well, it may just be me. I mean, a lot of my presentation videos, I have actually, I don't know. I could be coming down with something. I don't think I am. I mean, I'll say I'll look into that too. I don't know. Maybe if I got closer to the microphone. I mean, it's only about a foot away. It should be able to pick me up fine. It's a S mic too. What Lavs are you using for the Connect? I missed the first few minutes. Yes, only 60/60 worked of the DPAs. Can it receive a bidirectional signal and start recording the backup when you press record on your recorder? Can it receive a bidirectional signal and start recording? I don't believe you can start remote roll on it. I don't think that's a feature. I'll check it real quick, and I'm going to not, if I find the feature, I'm not going to be able to do it, because if I do, it's going to not be able to transmit from there to there and record at the same exact time. So going through the menu, it starts at the very, very top with transmitter sleep, which if I hit that, you won't hear me. Mic level 21 dB, limiter on, low cut off, frequency boost off, mute off, RF power 10 milliwatts, and user ID HDTX. So let me go into the receiver, even though I doubt that's going to be the case. I don't think that the receiver would trigger a remote roll. No, it doesn't. So no, you cannot do that. You actually have to hit the physical button on the unit itself. Unless it has something to do with the United States version. Because that may be the case because this is obviously a United States version. I get no special treatment or anything from Deity either. Just because I do reviews or whatever. He's not gonna treat me. He is very adamant to when he was here for the mixer when I've talked to him I've seen him in interviews with like Thomas Poppet, Video Mantis. He's very adamant about making sure that he does not allow people in America to buy a unit that does transmit and record at the same time. He understands that's a ZaxCon patent. He respects patents. He says the way he always words it is he hopes to have some one day himself, and that is a ZaxCon patented feature, and so it's not available in America. So if it is available on a unit, it's not on mine. So if a UK, a EU version, an Australian unit, any of the ones anywhere else in the world, if you can remote roll the transmitter, it would not kill the transmission at the same time at that point. So you could remote roll and record. But in America, that's not an option. So I'm sure the firmware is going to be different someplace else in the world, but not here, man. I can't test that here. And it's not even the kind of thing where I could take this internationally and try. I can't buy a unit internationally and then bring it over here either. Because he actually has told the manufacturers, just so you know, Deity doesn't play with that. You play that game because they assume that people would do that. So the manufacturers are aware that that is not something that can happen in America. So they have informed manufacturers that if you sell a unit to someone is going to be bringing it to America, they will pull all of their products and they will no longer be able to be a partner with Deity. So they are very serious about making sure that they respect the ZaxCon patents with regards to selling stuff to people using in America that transmits and records. Okay, where are we? So no, to answer your question, the bidirectional signal is not something we can do here in America. Now I'm curious. DPA Lav that precisely didn't work with the Deity DA35 adapter and the VXLR to check the DA35. I do have a VXLR. But then again, I'm hardlining it. I had no problem with the DXLR when I hardlined it for my tests, because I was going hardline in with the 6060. But then that was the 6060, wasn't it? I didn't have an issue with anything I plugged into. The only other ones were the Sennheisers, which I think David mentioned above, that doesn't have an issue. And then the Cost 11, which he also said. So maybe I just happened to pick the three in the video that don't have issues with it. Interesting. Okay. Wow. Oh, I guess that's a super chat. I don't see those. That's cool. Thank you, Jason, for the super chat, and thank you, Podcastage, who I guess Benji showed up. I didn't even realize he was in here. That's cool. He shows up. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate that. All right. So let me pop up here again. Can you try the MKE2 Gold? I think that was the one that we used. If not, it was the MKE2. I thought that it might have said gold on it. I'm not ultra familiar with that microphone. Maybe I could bring up, because it was on loan to me along with the ME2 from True Audio. They were really True Audio and Gotham Sound here in Atlanta are very good to me. He gave me a paper invoice, so it's not going to be in my phone. They're very good to us. I mean, I went in there and I tested on the inside of Gotham Sound basically every Lav wind accessory they had available in stock. And then when I tested out the boom microphone wind protection options, went through and True Audio opened their doors to us. Those both of those vendors are just wonderful. And True, I cannot say it enough. They were really awesome. With sending, giving me things that, a 24-hour loan basically. So, I mean, I can't thank them enough. Okay. Versus WL Pro. Okay. So try the MKE2 Gold versus the WL Pro. I'd have to borrow it again. I had it for 24 hours. Set up a mix minus today. What I've had done last week, but needed a ground loop isolator. Okay. Well, cool. I see. Unrelated. Best indoor boom mic for dialogue under $600. Under $600. The one that stands out to me as being one that really impressed me, any professional sound person that's in here is going to say, why in the world are you recommending that one? And they could probably throw out something. But I was really, really impressed with the NTG5. That one to me was very impressive. Very small, very light, great features, sounded great. That one really made me happy. And I would say that that was probably the one that I would recommend for under $500. My favorite microphone of all time is the DPA 4017B. That is just, to me, that's a beautiful sounding mic. I fell in love with that one ever since I heard it at Gotham Sound in New York back like 6-7 years ago. It's beautiful. All right, so cubes are small and they look a bit. Okay, they boomed on the A10 on the last Star Wars film. That's quite possible. I'm sure they did. It's a great transmitter. Have you tried WYSICOM? I have not. There's not a whole lot of representation. I don't know of very many people that have WYSICOM products, especially here in town. So I might need to reach out to them and see if they can send me some loaners so I can play with them. No, Matt Price from Sound Rolling, he's done some tests with WYSICOM wireless. I think he put a WYSICOM against Electrosonics and then against a Sennheiser at one point. But let's see, what does it say? It's made me. What do you say? Boom operators, aka boom ops or boomers. It's made me make a comic out of it, but haven't ever shown it to anyone else yet. Transferring a whole bunch of videos from my laptop to my desktop with them. Alan needs to set up an NAS. I have no idea what that is, dude. I may not be thinking about it. Eldest, if you're still in here, tell me what an NAS is. Sound a bit nasally. So that's two people say that. Maybe it's because I'm actually a little bit off axis here. I may be talking more this way, and I need to direct my voice more into the microphone that's there. That may be the reason why. Normally I have the microphone in front of me, but I'm actually trying to go more on axis. Oh, Eldest Bro. Oh, he put a super chat out there too. Thanks, Eldest. That's awesome. Very appreciated, man. So Jason, thank you. Podcasters, thank you, and Eldest Bro, thank you. I'm not hearing indicators in my head, in my ears. I'm not hearing anything telling me that they're going off. I need to catch up with chat so that way I can stay up with it. Okay. You can remote record by pressing one of the arrow buttons on the RX in the home screen. Really? Okay. Let me try it. It's not that one. It's not the up. It's not down. If I press that one, that's power. If I press that one, that's menu. So maybe try pressing them. If I press them both at the same time, probably know what's going to happen. Yeah. Nothing. Maybe something in the menu, but Nick, I'm not able to get anything to work with it. So let's see. Remote record by pressing one of the arrow buttons on the RX in the home screen. Didn't work for me. All right. Do you primarily use Rycote shock mounts for your boom poles, or do you recommend another? How about a purchase of Envision 7 HG MK Mark III? Yes, I love the Envision lyres. I really do. I'm a huge fan of them. There's only ever been one situation I've ever been in that I've not been able to make them work correctly for me, and that was I ended up resorting to a one of the old school PSCs, not the M5, but I resorted to an old school PSC, and it seemed to do the trick. I mean, it's just the thing is, it may have been that one microphone that had something in there, and it just held it differently. I've never ever had an issue with the Envision lyres. They always are solid as a rock to me, as are the Sonellas. I love the Sonellas too. So there you go. But yeah, if you purchase an HD Mark III, it should do you fine. The Envision 7s are great. I love them. I'm not an overly big fan of the ones that have like the two layers with a bar straight between them, but in all honesty, they work perfectly effectively. They're actually better for suspension of a longer shotgun microphone. So those are even better, even though it's not my preference. They are better in that circumstance. I don't know the model stream on YouTube. Oh, podcast. Ha ha ha. Model stream on YouTube. They do, just not on this channel. So Zaxcom has a unit that does that. Yes, they do. Actually, Zaxcom, back in I think it was 2004, patented the whole idea of transmitting and recording at the same time. And I don't think they released a product at that point that was able to do that. But it was basically an idea they patented and they were developing the technology for. Now they almost, I think, if not all of them, I think all of their transmitters do. You can stick a micro SD card in them and you can transmit and record at the same time. So if a recorder, for example, if a mixer, because they have ZaxNet is a system that allows you to remote and it basically talks to, you can change gain on the fly, basically do the same kind of thing you can with the Deity system, but Deity is designed differently. But ZaxNet is a very, very versatile system that allows them to, from the mixer doesn't have to say, okay, go out there and like with Electrosonics, dweedle it up, or use a WYSICOM and go over there and manually make a change if you're going to bring up or down the audio level. Zaxcom has some really cool innovations, and they put them into their ZaxNet where they can control things remotely. And if you're not familiar with their product line, go check it out. Personally, I think the Nova is brilliant. The Nova is a little bitty box about this big. It's a 6. I think it's got like 5 faders on the front of memory serves. Maybe it's 6. I know it's actually it is 6, but it's a little bitty ENG style mixer with, I think, 8 channels of wireless that can fit inside the thing. And it's a multi-track recorder, multi-channel recorder. The whole thing, I think, with transmitters, ZaxNet, the ability to remote roll and record and everything. I mean, it's a one-stop shop. It's lightweight. It's going to save a lot of people's back. It, to me, is genius. It's a brilliant design. It's a beautiful piece of technology. And if you're not familiar with it, go check it out. It's the Zaxcom Nova. It's really cool. Apparently, the transfer speed has a regular waveform pattern on the laptop and flash drive. What are we talking about? Transfer speed on a regular waveform pattern, laptop and flash drive. Okay. Well, it told you in TG5, so that's probably from... Can you boom with an SM7B? No. Well, you can. Back in the day, people used to use, what was it? The EV... 642, I think, was a dynamic microphone that people were using. And the actual SM5, I know people were sometimes booming with too. Those are dynamics, so they're going to be better for background noise. But what they do lack is, it takes more gain, just like back then, just like now. But you have plenty of gain on a lot of professional recorders. I think Zaxcom is like 75 dB. Sound Devices is like 76. I don't know why you'd ever need that much. I know it's 76 on my Mix Pre 6, but you really don't need that much gain unless you're going to be doing whispering AMR with ASMR with a microphone you really shouldn't be, or you run it through a bunch of attenuators first. I don't know. But no, you really don't want to boom with the dynamic. It's not good. It has a built-in shock mount, so you should be okay. No, you don't want to do that. It's just, you want to use a condenser. You want to get a full frequency response on someone's voice. You want to have a full fidelity, lower noise floor. You want to have it be where you have more reach. Especially if you're working with a supercardioid, or they don't make a shotgun dynamic, for example. Or at least they haven't in a long time. They used to. They don't anymore. But and the reason why is because if you're going to go dynamic, go to condenser. Modern technology has gotten very, very cool with a lot of microphones. So you really don't need to go boom dynamic anymore. I don't think people have done that in a few decades, unless it's a joke for or something that they're doing for a movie or something. I can't think of one circumstance I've ever heard of it, at least in modern era. Network attached storage. Okay. All right. So network attached storage. I don't need that. I just connect up multiple different hard drives. I change that. Booming with an SM7B is easier than booming with my Sennheiser E835. Now, why would you want to boom with a SM7B though? You just don't want to do that. Is it something Andrew showed in a video? It was something Andrew showed in a video. Andrew from Deity showed booming with an SM7B? Didn't sound accurate. Can't boom with an SM7B. That's David. Yeah, you're right. You shouldn't. Andrew Jones is the head of Deity microphones. Yeah, I don't think he would have boomed with an SM7B. Sounds dope. An SM5B. No. I know the SM5. I mean, it's the same family. People used to do it. There's just far better microphones for it now. There really are. Don't boom with the dynamic. Hey, glad you're doing a live stream. Just saw it. Usually, Slav Guns, I do live streams, but it's a lot later at night. It's just, when I was talking in one of the sound forums earlier, and David, who's in here in the stream here, he mentioned, can I do some tests? And I said, you know what? That would be one of those things where I could test it, but it's one of those things he might want to hear. And so I decided to live stream it. There's a question somebody posted online, so I'm going to look and see what that question was real quick. Alrighty. So that was Jen. He asked me, I don't know if he's in here, has there been any documentation about transmission delay in the TX? Folks don't like the 20 millisecond delay in the Deity kit. Is that the same for the TX? And if so, what does one do to compensate? Well, if you're talking about the 19 millisecond delay low latency mode on the Deity Connect, the 30 millisecond delay medium setting, or the high latency on the Deity Connect, those are designed to help repair the audio. Because 2.4 gigahertz is not able to punch through walls nearly as effectively as UHF, even though technically anything between about 300 megahertz and 3 gigahertz is considered UHF. So technically 2.4 gigahertz is UHF, but we don't consider it that way. When we refer to UHF, we're usually referring to like 470 to 608 megahertz here in America, or technically until July 13th of this year, we'll be able to operate on up to 700. But some places like T-Mobile are already experimenting in that bandwidth range. So it's affected, and people are posting scans of different places, and it's getting very rough above 608. Now there are guard bands that you can, if you have an FCC license, which I strongly recommend anybody who deals with wireless microphones for your work, I recommend you joining the FCC, or getting yourself an FCC license. The reason why, you don't have to learn Morse code or anything, but the reason why I recommend doing that is because it tells the FCC that you're on those frequencies. One of the things they told us when they sold out above the blocks above 700 megahertz is nobody's using them. Like, what do you mean nobody's using them? Everyone's using them. But they sold them out because they were not people registered with the FCC. So sound mixers started registering themselves with the FCC, and now they've done more packing us downward. So now basically we're operating in 470 up to about 608 megahertz. There is a 941 to 965, I think, megahertz, way up there. It's it's high enough that if the transmitter's too high, if it goes to 250 milliwatts, then you can actually cook yourself with it. So if the normally they would go up to, like, if it's UHF transmitter and it went to 100 milliwatts, you can put it right here. You can put it anywhere and it's not going to cook you. But if it went to 250, Gordon Moore at Electrosonic said that you can't do that on the 941 series block, because if you did, it would actually be damaging to people's skin. So they were not able to do that. It was not a pass. They weren't able to pass the testing on that. He said there was cooking people's skin, I guess, like microwaves. Kind of funny. Not funny like, ha ha ha, you'd cook yourself. It's funny as like, wow, you wouldn't think that actually would be the case. All right, so all right, Angie, share the remote. recording trigger. So that must have been, if Andrew did the remote recording thing, then he's obviously not using an American version. He's using it for purposes because he also he goes internationally all over the place. And when he goes internationally for trade shows or whatever, he has to demonstrate those units. And he also, being the developer here in the United States, I don't think Zaxcom, if he's not selling the product, I don't think that they're going to mind him testing it because he's doing everything legitly. He's doing everything. He's respecting the Zaxcom patents. And there's nothing that Zaxcom should do to him or can do to him if he's not selling them here in America. He can test them, he can develop the firmware, do his own test, and then as long as they don't sell in America, there's no issue. So if he was showing how to remote roll it, then that's probably what he was doing, is he was using an international version and doing it in a video to show you how it worked, because not all of his customers are here in America. That would be what it would be. Have an S-Mic 2 and a V-Mic D3. Yeah, sure do. Might have to be doing with the SM5. I tell you what, Bandrew, I will, if you come to town sometime, I will put a regular microphone in your hands and on a boom pole. I'll let you throw it out there. Then we'll add the SM7B to it, or an SM5 if you want to bring one, and we'll see how well you can hold that over your head. It's not a microphone I ever want to boom with. Not going to do it. And I think if a mixer were to ask me, I think he's trolling, or he just wants to see how much of a lecture he gets from me. So like I said, trolling. Okay, so by the way, thanks for our chat a while ago. Just got back from a short shot show in Vegas. Picked up a Sennheiser MD46 with a Tascam DR10X. Attachment worked out brilliantly. Great, good. I don't think the HDTX preamps are to booming with an SM7B. I don't think so either. That is one of the tests I'll be doing. I don't want to give away too much information about what I'm doing for my review, but I do have a document open, and the problem that I run into is every couple of hours I think of something else I want to do. And that's the reason why that video that just launched this morning about the Deity Lavs, that video is one I started 12 days ago. That's the reason why I missed a release a week ago today, because I tried to get that thing done. I just could not do it. Every single night I was editing no less than 4 to 6 hours. And it was sometimes during the day I would disappear, and my wife would say, yeah, you know, because I'm between shows right now. She'd say, go on up there and edit. And I'd go down there and I'd edit from 1 until 5 or 6. And then I would come back downstairs and be with the kids and do family stuff. And then once everybody would go to bed at 9, I'd be up until 3 a.m. editing more. That video was crazy. And a lot of it is, I could probably simplify it a lot if I did more jump cuts, if I did graphics differently. To me, it's just a way that I want it to look. I know it cost me a lot in time. I know it cost me a lot, and I probably, in all honesty, need a different piece of editing software. I've been using for the past couple of years. When I first started the channel, I was using I didn't want to use my old version of Vegas. I had 2 old versions of Sony Vegas from when after it was Vegas Video and it became Sony Vegas. I have, I think, Vegas 6 and 7. Those do everything I need them to. I could very easily use those. But, you know, I remember there were some issues that I had with it back in the day. There's probably better software now. But what I did when I started up this channel is I looked online and I did some research, and Power Director seemed to have great reviews. The only issue I have with it is that it's not the fastest program to use. It is completely, it's very intuitive. They make things more difficult in some ways than they really need to with the software. And it could be that features are patented and I just am not aware. It could be that it's just they've never developed it. I don't know what the case is. But anyway, I have a DPA 4017B, a DPA 4018C, as well as a Senken CS3E. I love all of those microphones. Normally use the DPAs, but can't help hearing that CS3E works well indoors in noisy environments. Well, it will work great in pretty much any environment because it has a lot of rejection. My friend Michael Wynn, who has the Michael Wynn YouTube channel, he put the what is it, the CS3E against the CSM1. He put them head to head. He did A/B testing back and forth between the two of them in various different environments, and I think in every single one of them, I like the sound of the CS3E over the CSM1. And have a troll. Okay. Alrighty. That message will remain hidden. Devin, thanks for playing. But no, the CS3E. Here's what I'll say about it. I have used it very seldomly inside. I used it for a film that was a Korean movie that was being shot here, and I did the last half of it. The mixer had a boom operator, and that boom operator decided to leave to do something else, and I took over. And I sometimes would use the CS3E inside. I've used the CSR2, which is, it has the capsule where you can cancel out the rear lobe. So it's a supercardioid capsule microphone that allows you to cancel out the rear lobe by engaging a switch on it. That I've used inside in a very reflective area. I've never used a CS3E on a hard floor. I've used it on carpeted floor. And I think the reason why is because I needed more reach, and I think the mixer only had a 816. I don't think it was a Neumann KM-R82. It wasn't a 70. I only know 2 mixers that own 70s here in town, and it wasn't either one of those. I don't remember. Okay, so Eldest, video editing software. All right, you mentioned Davinci Resolve. I tried it about a year and a half ago, and I rage quit it and uninstalled after about an hour. There were so many features on there that just did not make sense. But because I was looking for new editing software in December, I did bring up all the videos. I watched a whole bunch of them. I said, okay, I'm going to give it an honest check again. I have it installed on this computer right now. The issue I have with it is that despite my video card being more than what it's required, my RAM is more than what's required, everything is more than what's required, it's spotty. Every time I put a video through there, the preview monitor is glitching. If I take the quality way down, it still stutters. It still is like a 3 frames to probably 8 frames per second. It stutters like crazy. I can't stand that. I cannot deal with that. When I first started this channel, I was editing on my old gaming PC, and it failed. It was not good at all. So when Titus over at the Search for Awesome reached out to me and said, I want to upgrade your computer, I said, okay. And we did a collaboration. He has since removed it because his video was dated. It was how to get a good deal on a used computer in 2019, I think it was what it was. And he removed it by the end of 2019 because a lot of the information didn't apply anymore. I still have it on there. So if you do a search for SoundSpeeds computer, SoundSpeeds, search for Awesome, something like that, you'll find our collaboration and you'll see what computer it is that he got. Now, I've upgraded a few things since then. He helped me upgrade it from, I think, a liquid cool to an air cool or vice versa, whatever's the best. So that way I didn't have to do any maintenance to it every few months. And I've also upped the RAM. But all the specs on that computer are more than what Davinci Resolve would take in order to function. But Davinci Resolve, a lot of people online complain about that. So yeah, it's just an issue with Davinci. Just, forget about it. Get over it or whatever. I just can't do it. Vegas Pro 17 is on sale for $220 on stream right now. You see, it was, I think, down the Pro version, I think, was down to $200 at Christmas. I did install it again. I ran into a few issues because I was testing it. Because again, I have versions that were purchased back from the 90s. Whenever I got my first nonlinear editing system, I think it was my late 90s, maybe early aughts. But I was editing on Sony Vegas 6 and 7, and they did fine. But now there's a few differences. There's a few things that kind of drove me crazy. I was going back and forth with support, and I wasn't getting good support out of it. And finally, I told the lady, I said, look, if we can't get this resolved before the end of the year, when your sale runs out, forget about it. And they weren't able to get it resolved. And it was it seemed to me like it would be a very simple fix, but it just was not able to. And it worked fine before. It worked fine. And then one day, for whatever reason, it just stopped working. And part of it was the formats. When I put through anything that was a WAV file, that's what it was. If I put through a WAV file, even if it was it didn't matter if it came from a Tascam DR40, if it came from my Sound Devices MixPre 6. So it doesn't matter if it was a monophonic or a polyphonic broadcast WAV file. It doesn't matter what it was, or if it was just a standard wave. It did not like dealing with waves. So there, and there are always like workarounds, and they wrote me and said, oh yeah, you can just put it into a different format. I'm like, oh yeah, and you could just fix it because you list that wave is one of the formats you have on your website. You list that it's a format that should work. It should work. I don't have to do workarounds on something if it's just supposed to work. So don't tell me I can do this as a workaround. I do too many workarounds all day long at work, just because camera has to do a certain way. I don't want to come home and have to spend more time in an editing program having to convert a WAV file over to something to make it an AIFF or whatever format they told me to use instead. They're like, oh, well, it's also a lossless format, or it's also a high quality format. I'm like, yeah, that's great. I want to use waves. I use waves a lot. Sometimes I just go straight in and I don't want to have to convert it from the original file if I'm doing a review. I want to just import that file in there and not have it drop out and go muted every few seconds. Anyway, so what's the best mic to get crunchy, crispy outdoor waves? In what capacity? What do you mean, crunchy, crispy outdoor waves? Please clarify. I'm not sure what you mean. You mean dialogue? You mean sound effects? Help me out here there, Alfred. Do you ever use the Mix Assist plugin on the MixPre for recording, and have you had good results with it? I don't. I've never used it. I could easily buy it and install it, but how often do I mix on this channel? I use the MixPre 6 exclusively for use on SoundSpeeds. I also have it connected up to stuff whenever I do, I talk to people on Discord when I do live streams like now. It makes a great interface. It's a great interface and remote and a recorder that I can take out in the field. But why do I need to mix? I could get the Mix Assist, but I don't really have a use for it right now. So, I mean, I thought about getting it and then doing a review or reaching out to Sound Devices and asking them if they would be willing to give it to me in exchange for a review. I don't have a use for it. There are so many videos I want to do. I could show you my list and scroll through it really fast. Let me bring up this other window here so I can make sure it's not going to be too much in focus. But there is a whole list of videos I want to do. I don't know if you can see that scrolling. All of those videos are something I want to do. That list right there that you saw me scroll through. If I do all those videos, I will be doing SoundSpeeds for the next 30 years. And by then, I'm sure I will have said, well, that's completely not a useful video. There's no point in me doing that one. But I constantly throw another thing on the list, just all the time. Someone says, hey, can you do a video about? Sure, I'll add it to the list. And then I go back. Sometimes I'll scroll through the middle of the list and say, oh, I should do that video. I should do that video. Well, the interesting thing is, when I first started the list, if you notice, my videos used to be, when I first started SoundSpeeds, they were around 1.5 to 3 minutes. And a lot of them were quick tips, not a quick tip of the day thing, but it was more like, oh, here's something you can do if you want to try this, or here's something you can do. Well, my channel's changed a bit. I started getting a lot of people saying, can you not go deeper? Sure, I can go deeper. I can talk much deeper about stuff. Why don't you do it then? We really would like to see, some of this stuff that we'd like to see you dive deeper. So I started diving deeper, and people are like, oh, this is great. Do that again. So now my channel's kind of evolved to more of a just do tests and test something to death until someone is like, Hopefully he doesn't have any more questions. There's always going to be more questions, but at least that's what I've gotten into the habit of doing. Not 4K footage, 1080p. Not been doing, I do 4K sometimes. A lot of the times when you see me do 4K stuff, it's if I'm doing like the extensive testing videos with multiple microphones on the end. And what I'll do is I'll just set a wider frame and then I'll start digitally zooming in to the 4K image, and I'll do that so that way I can recrop and not have to jump out, not have to suddenly go over there and zoom out a little bit. But that's something that I've just usually, that's the only 4K stuff I really ever do. Oh, thank you, Aaron. I really appreciate it. I jumping on the super chat wagon. Here's to looking forward to your working through your list of ideas. Thank you. It'll take a while, but hopefully I'll get through the list. That'd be awesome. Editing a Vegas Pro 16 and 17 here. Yeah, I like Vegas a lot. Just not being able to work with WAV files really annoys me. Alan.exe has stopped working. Would you like to restart? I guess that was when I paused and looked at the screen because I couldn't understand what you were saying. Needs more. Hey, Alan. Oh, hey, Dervish. How's it going, man? Good to see you. Interesting about Resolve issues. I'm on a Mac and love it. Have you tried Premiere Pro? The subscription model scares away some people, but it's also great. Yes, I understand. And I know that when I got Power Director 15 and then I upgraded to 16 about 6 months later, I upgraded because I was hoping it would fix some of the issues I had with it. But it's functionally, it's basically the same exact thing. So when 17 and then 18 came out, really no purpose to upgrade. Most of the time when they come up with new features, it's like I don't care anything about being able to make a silhouette of a moon and change it into an eyeball. I could care less about doing something like that. I just want to be able to be faster in my workflow. Videos take me a long time to edit sometimes, and that's one of those things that I just really don't want to get into the habit of editing forever and ever and ever because I just can't get through a video that is not user-friendly. And I don't want to have to add steps like converting to WAV or watching glitches and having to pre-render, bring in a whole bunch. To give you an idea, the video that just finished this morning, I had recorded about 2 hours worth of audio samples. Then I took, pictures also. I then went in and the presentation video that I did for that, I don't script very much, but this time I did. I scripted it, learned what I wanted to do, and standing in front of the camera trying to memorize and do everything I was going to be doing for that video, I recorded 6 hours and 13 minutes worth of footage. If you watch the video closely, you'll see that every now and then the frame, the background, the shot of me will change. The background will change ever so slightly up or down. That's when the camera ran out of battery, and I'd have to change that up and grab my backup. And then after recording the first like 3 hours and 15 minutes or something like that on 2 different batteries, I ended up going downstairs and doing the dad and family thing for a bit. And then I went back up there later and finished it out. But I think I did one more card, and then I had something I had to do, and then I did one more card, and then I was finally done. I was like, thank you. 6 hours and 13 minutes of footage I had to go through, in addition to all my sound tests and stuff. It was exhausting. That was the craziest project I worked on for this channel. So much stuff. Wondered if the Mix Sips plugin would be helpful for solving phase issues on multiple open ear mics. Unsaid, yeah, that's the purpose of it. The Mix Assist plugin would be helpful for that. I don't know. I know the way the Dugan auto mix works, and Dan Dugan is brilliant. How he came up with the way the algorithms and stuff that the Dugan auto mix follows. He is brilliant. I love his work there. Okay, you are just plain awesome, aren't you? Actually, let's do this a little bit different. I'll just do this number. All right. Already have a mixed pre 10T, first edition, and the new ones are worth getting through. Okay. 32-bit floating point. If Andrew was still in here, he would hear a rant from me. Or he would be loving to hear the rant. I have been trying for about a month to finish the script I have for the video I want to do on 32-bit floating point. The long and the short of it is, no, you don't need it. So many people are thinking that floating point is going to save. No, podcastage, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do the rant. You want to hear a rant? Go back and watch today's videos. You hear me rant about the duct tape twice. And I don't know if you were in here before, or if anyone is in here now that was not in here before. Based on what I did in my video earlier today where I ranted twice about the duct tape, Andrew sent me a text message and says he's met with a new person. They're removing the duct tape and they're going to be putting in a hyperallergenic tape that's going to be what you should be using. And I was like, thank you. So that was something that is being changed because he saw that in the video today. But no, I'm not going to do a rant about it. But basically, in the long and the short of it is, we have been recording on 16-bit forever. All right, I so want to. I don't want to, though. I don't want to. Because I don't want to get into the content. No, I don't want to. No. Here's what I will say. Back in analog audio mixing days, when you had about 24 dB above zero before it was ultimate clipping and like completely, destroyed audio, people had to ride the mics hotter. Even though it brought up the hiss and the self noise a little bit, you did have to ride everything hotter because you only had, 15 to 18 dB of dynamic range. As soon as we went digital, you got a lot more dynamic range. Noise floors got a lot lower. Self noise got a lot lower. It changed the way a lot of things works. And then as soon as we started recording 16-bit, people have a tendency of getting lazy, especially in the consumer world. And when that happens, people say, okay, well, I'm going to record on this because I have more dynamic range. Do you even know what dynamic range is? A lot of people don't. They're just like, oh, well, it's higher. It must be better. No. You record on 32-bit floating point, for example, and it totally changes everything. It doesn't just, it's not linear anymore. Things are now logarithmic. And it can do some weird warbling with your noise floors. And it can do some weird effects because instead of being like a difference between 0.01 and 0.02 is this, and 0.02 to 0.03 is here. And then it's linear in volume. Instead of being that way, floating point changes it. It could be like when you go from there's the like, for example, the multiplier, the mantissa, without getting way in deep in it, but there's multipliers. You have to record you have to multiply you have the sign, the exponent, and the mantissa. The sign is plus or minus. The exponent is basically a number that's 23 bits what's technically 24, but it's basically the number of bits that make up the sound wave, and then the mantissa is the multiplier. And so by multiplying a number by another number, that's how you can create some astronomically high numbers, and that's how they do it with floating point. But when you start playing with exponents and you start playing with the multiplication, you have, for example, 2 times 1, 3 times 1, 4 times 1, 5 times 1, and those numbers are linear. They're 1 apart. You start recording now, you start saying, okay, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4. Now it's a difference of 2. Then you do 2 times, not 2 times 3, but 2 times 4 instead. 2 times 4 times 2, 2 times, 8. And then 2 times 16. And so when it goes up, those numbers start to get difference. The difference between one level and another would be 1, but now it suddenly is 16 or 32 or whatever. And that's one of the ways they're able to get to really, really high numbers because of all these multipliers. But it's just, do you need it? No, it adds so many more steps. You can't do basic editing. You now have to set your gain stage manually because you can't just bring it in and import it and expect it to hit all your meters in the right place. I know people say, well, I'm going to leave it on there. I'm going to record in 32-bit floating point just in case there's a spike. Well, guess what? That's why you have levelers. That's why you use your limiter, rather, not your leveler. You have your limiter. And if I screamed into this microphone right now, because, as Bandrew says over in podcasters, screaming is funny. If I were to scream into this microphone, then it would clip it back and it'd pull it back. But in all honesty, if you have someone that talks loud, bring the level down a little bit. You don't have to roll it so hot. Gain it down, trim it down, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to ride the level hot. Noise floors are very, very low. You don't have to push them really hard to make them work and sound really good. Don't be afraid of underdriving if you're doing a recording on a show, if you're worried about somebody getting really loud. And especially because, as you saw in my video this morning, if you scream too loud, you're going to start clipping your microphone anyway. You're going to clip that before you're going to clip 24-bit in most circumstances. So unless you're hardlining something, which a lot of people would do for a podcast, and if you're talking into a microphone like here, and you're whispering from this far away, and then suddenly you get on the mic and scream, then you deserve to clip it. I mean, God's honest truth of it. You deserve to clip that microphone and have a horrible sounding, recording if you're not doing proper mic technique and you're being a complete idiot when you're recording. Do you need 32-bit floating point? No, it's been around for a long time. And, there are purposes that you would use it for in pro applications, but do you need it when you're recording stuff? No, absolutely not. If you want to do it because you have an F6 and you want to feel, cool about it or whatever, I could have upgraded my Mix Pre 6 to a Mix Pre 6 2. But instead, when people were like, I got a similar Mix Pre 6 to get a Mix Pre 6 2 now because of the 32-bit floating point, and people start selling their products dirt cheap, I could have easily picked up another Mix Pre 6 and gotten it for, a steal of a deal at that. But in all honesty, they're solid. It's a great unit. Why bother reinventing the wheel, so to speak, and start doing everything in 32-bit floating point just cause it's more bandwidth. It's more size. There's no real purpose in it. It adds a lot more steps to your edit. I just don't see a purpose in it. So no. American Liberty's in here. Great. Good to see you here. Everyone loves it when I rant. You hear rants too many times from me in voice chats and stuff. You don't need to hear my rants. I heard you criticize them about the duct tape. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, not exactly a rant. As for the adapter, it's an adapter. That was the Synco Mic D2 video I did, where I'll occasionally throw what I've always referred to as an Allanism, or my wife and I and girlfriends before her, I always said I pulled an Allen, and that's if I do everything right except I do one completely dumb boneheaded thing. And it's not just typical guy boneheadedness. It is something that's like, where was your brain? I'm like, I don't know. It totally was crazy. Anyway, that's me pulling an Allen. And occasionally I'll try to throw a little bit of humor into one of the videos, just because it's being a robot is no fun. I will stay tuned for your future video rant. Now, granted, my next video review is going to be the HD-TX. I'm going to be doing that video next. And then after that, I have a neat microphone, King, and a Worker B. I know Bandrew recently did those, and I've gotten backed up on my reviews and stuff. There was other videos I wanted to do first. But I think they sent me these I think they sent me the Worker because they reached out and asked if I'd be willing to review. They said pick one of our mics, and I said, well, I already own your King B. Let me get the Worker, and I'll do them both in a review. And I there's not a whole lot to say about them. They're solid. They're very good. I mean, most of what I would say would be repeats of what Bandrew said and other people too. So I'll probably summarize it real quickly as best I possibly can summarize. I'm not good at summarization. And then from there, just test it. And I have a few things I'm going to do in that video. But basically, it's a basic, straightforward mic. And it's very simple to use. So it's a great, it will be a pleasure to do that review after the one I just got through doing on all the fours, the extensive testing of those. And after the extensive testing, do I need to do extensive testing? Should I call it that? I don't know. I need to look at my list. By the time I'm finally done and I release the video, we'll see what happens. It may be an extensive testing. Extensive testing is when I exhaust myself by testing everything in the entire world. And a lot of the times, those extensive testing videos don't do very well. People are, I guess they look at them and they're like, oh, geez, this is, he's blabbing about way too much stuff. I know some people that like them, but some people are just like, no, forget it. I'm not gonna bother to watch it. So some of my extensive testing videos don't get a whole lot of attention. And why kill myself if a lot of the tests are going to be something that people shrug at? So there you go. Okay. Yes, Alan making a positive change in the product hype. I'm dead. What do you mean, eldest? I will stay tuned for your future video rant. Okay, cool. It's a micro rant. I think 32-bit. Okay, it's for the set it and forget it crowd. You're right, it is. It's very much for the set it and forget it crowd. I think Curtis Judd even said in one of his videos he would use it if he needed dynamics. He would just set it and, like you said, walk away and he'd go off and do camera. But I mean, unless you're worried about someone just suddenly screaming really, really loud, why? I mean, if they whisper and you have your gain set in a high position, and then you're worried about them suddenly screaming, and they're whispering most of the time, I mean, I just don't see a reason for it. I don't see a reason for it. I don't think I've ever been in a circumstance where I've said, I really wish I would have had 32-bit floating point, unless it's me just being silly or goofy. And also, I'll point out that this is one of the reasons why sound devices, Zaxcom, Kantar, none of the professional sound recorders have 32-bit floating point at this time. It probably is something that the hardware can take it and they could upgrade firmware or do something like that to and unlock it. But there's not even a need in the professional world at this point, for most part, like for production sound mixers and stuff. So there you go. Just jumping in to say thanks for the great content. I'm a TV news photographer and picked up the DDS Mic 2S as my NAT mic because of your recent video. Great. Well, thank you so much for telling me. That's great. It was actually the video that the microphone that was originally going to be sitting right here in my face, but when I was setting up for this, I was hearing way too much keyboard noise. I mean, I'm not using my keyboard, but I'm sure if I did, you'd hear it. I mean, that's me hitting the keyboard. But, it's, I just kind of, unless you need the low profileness, I actually would personally prefer the 2 over the 2S. But 2S is a very natural. I love the tone of it. It's a very good sounding mic. Hi there, just jumping. Oh, that's me reading the same comment again. Still trying to figure out the on-off switch. Can't handle 32-bit floating point. Trying to figure out the on-off switch. Can't handle 32-bit floating point. Trying to figure out the on-off switch. Could you clarify a little bit, Liberty? I'm not exactly certain that I know what you're talking about there. Sorry, man. We are now caught up in our chat, finally. So I guess. Oh, he was being silly, maybe. I don't think I have any other questions up there from above. But okay. So you go. Any other questions that people have about anything in particular? Oh, wait a minute. Alan EXE has stopped working. I haven't stopped working by choice. My show ended. And as for this, I'm answering questions. And if we're out of questions, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. And Oh, Liberty doesn't know how to turn on and off devices. It's too complicated. Therefore, 30 is far too complicated. Gotcha. How is my day? All right. I am currently between shows. Here's how my day was. I started off yesterday. I was still editing this video. I edited until about 4:30 a.m. Actually, correction. It took me an hour and 50 minutes to render the video. The video finished rendering at 4:50 this morning, and I hit upload on it. My internet had it uploaded in about 15 minutes, and then it entered processing. And I basically, during the render time, I went through and did everything I needed to, except for the timestamps. I went ahead and built my everything in the description. I went ahead and built the everything I wanted it to say. And the only thing I really didn't do was the timestamps and note what they were. And as soon as the video was done being rendered and I was uploading it, I had already done everything else. So I went through and did the timestamps, added that to it, and then I went ahead and added it to the thing. And then you can't, with the new YouTube uploading thing, you have to go in at the end of the video and add the tags. You can't do that while you go through. At least I haven't found the way to do it. So when I was finally done with all of that, I set a premiere time. And I think that was like 4:56 a.m. or something. That's when everything was finally done. And at that point, I went and brushed my teeth and went ahead and just wrapped up. And Andrew from Deity sent me a message earlier, because one of the things he does is he'll ask my thoughts on certain things at a convention or something, and I'll tell him my thoughts on it because he knows I don't pull punches. And I told him, I said, well, rendering out the next video, I said, it's completely done. And I don't let him, add input or anything like that. If he asks questions, I don't answer him. He doesn't, because he knows not to. But I even told him, I was making him nervous intentionally. I was like, yeah, I don't know, after I release this video, I don't know if you're going to want to talk to me anymore. Yeah, and he's like, oh crap, now I'm nervous. And I was like, yeah. And then when I posted that picture up on Twitter of me angry at the very end when I was doing the rant about duct tape, he saw that and he basically had the response of, oh no. He's like, so in that video you get angry at one point? And I'm like, yes, I do. And he actually was like, oh no, now I'm really nervous for real. And he sent me a message. I'm laying there in bed trying to go to sleep, and he's texting me, and he's like, it screenshots of the screen saying 4 minutes until the premiere. I can't, I'm waiting. And I'm like, you'll be fine, man. You'll be fine. And it was funny. By doing the premiere, I was also able to go ahead and send it out to the Deity Facebook group, and I put it up on a few different social media things and stuff like that. So that's one good thing about Premiere, because if you have it private and set a schedule, you can't do it the same way unless it's a timed thing. Say release at this time, and then it'll search, and if it finds the video, then it'll put it in there. But how was my day? Basically, that's how it started. I went to bed at about 5:30 a.m. and flung awake real quickly and couldn't get back to sleep until about 6:15. And then I had to get up again at about 8:20 a.m. to do something for my daughter at preschool. Had to register her. So I am right now a zombie. I've been playing with the kids and been doing various different things all day, and I'm a zombie. I'm completely brain dead. I feel like my brain has kind of frozen itself. It's not freezing cold, but it's just kind of frozen back there, and I'm idle right now. I don't feel like I can think at all. All right, question about a lav mic I have. I have a Shure SM11 dynamic lav mic, XLR. I get what sounds like the same noise when you rub a finger over the mic capsule, but I get it everywhere and anywhere on the mic cable. The reason why is that's transfer noise. Cables are not all the same. In the video that I just released this morning, that's one of the biggest complaints I had about the Deity Lav, is that the cable on that was way too noisy. When you put it on, and even if you strain relief it, one of the things I found is that if you just move and the material shifts on your shirt or whatever, that can sometimes cause cable noise. It can cause transfer noise, is what it's called, and that is extremely annoying. Some cables are flexible and quiet. Some others are not the least bit quiet. You probably have a lav that you may like the sound of, but you're getting a lot of transfer noise through that. The best thing you can do in those circumstances, if you use a clip, I don't know if you use a clip on it, but instead of just having it go straight down and just have that cable hang, loop it up and around inside of it. At the end of the video, I basically show how you take the cable that comes out the bottom of the lav, and you just basically make it loop straight up and come out the top of the connector. It's called the strain relief loop if you use the clip. If you don't, then you can do one of two things. You can either put it on your chest or wherever you're going to be laving, and then when you run it down, don't just let the cable fall regardless. Run it straight over here underneath the curve. If you basically were to draw the torso of a human being, if I said you have 2 seconds, draw the torso of a human being, go. You're going to probably go side, side, center line, curve over, and you're basically done. So it's basically the sides, you got maybe a center line, and you got maybe the curve part, that comes up from the center over. Those are the lines that you can most likely hide microphones in, except the one straight down the middle. Up the side is great. You can hide a lav straight here in the middle of the chest, run it underneath right here, overneath. You run it underneath over here and then run it down the side. The reason you do that is because a lot of the times your shirt is full facing to the camera. People are not going to be looking at the seam that's on my shirt that goes down my side, and if so, they're going to think it has to do with that. So people don't look for that. If it follows the curve of the body, you're basically doing what would be considered to be an outline of the body at that point. If the body is shaped like this and you have a curve that goes out and then suddenly it drops off, if you hide something right there at that lip, that's where you would hide it. If the body goes this way, you can hide something easily in the same exact place. That's where you hide cables. You hide them along those lines. You basically go, it takes an extra step or an extra piece of tape or something like that. But by doing that from here, strain reliefing it over here with another piece of tape, moleskin, whatever the case may be, and then running it down, you're going to find a lot better results. The main point is to isolate. If you have a noisier cable, isolate it a bit. How much do the previous video sets influence future videos? Do you make videos per your interest, or do you allow what worked before to influence what you make next? I suck at being a YouTuber. I've told everybody I know that. I'm not good at it at all. I make, to give you an idea, after over 200 videos, after have been doing this for almost 3 years now, it's coming up on 3 years in a few months, I only make, based on all the views, based on all the watch times and stuff like that, around $60 a month. That's it. I don't do this out of trying to make money. If I did, I would have quit it a long time ago. This channel it's one of those things where the reason why I don't ask for likes, shares, subscribes, for donations is because I figured that if you wanted to do any of that, you would. It's always appreciated. Like I see that right now we have 11 likes. We have 18 current viewers. I've had some generous people doing super chats tonight, and so I have $22 there. But those things right there are people doing it not because I've said, hey, don't forget, we have a drive, try to donate, try to subscribe, and make sure you tell people to. My videos, if I wanted to do more videos that are clickbaity, I'm first of all terrible at clickbait. I've tried to think of a clickbait title and then delivered on what I said I was going to, and so it's not clickbait. And suddenly the clickbait thing is completely, because I'm like, what would be a good clickbait title? And then I've run it by some people, and they're like, what is that supposed to mean? I'm like, never mind. I'm not good at it. The video that I have that is the very top performing video that I have is don't buy an AT2035 before watching this video. That video, I think if you do a search for AT2035, I think it right now is the top video that comes up. It's the only video I have where I show up in the search results before people like Bandrew, before people like Booth Junkie. Some of the videos that I've done, Gerald Undone will pop up, and Basic Filmmaker will pop up before me. Basically, people that have 50,000 plus more subs than me will pop up before my videos. If I wanted to do videos that were clickbaity, that I could just do something, I wouldn't probably be enjoying the channel and doing a lot of videos. I would rather do stuff that I know would be helpful to people. If people do a search for something and they don't find an answer for it, I will try to answer it. I will try to see what I can. That is one of the things that I luckily have. I'm in a position where I'm pretty blessed. I've gotten very lucky in many ways. I've gotten great opportunities in many ways. And if I work in an industry where a lot of people keep secrets because they just, for whatever reason, they don't even want to share a lot of their ideas with other professional people. So as sad as that is, there's a whole bunch of people that will rant, and they'll tell you you're an idiot for doing it that way. I can't believe you've been doing it. You're going to be killing yourself, but they won't tell you the right way to do it. Some people do. And I got really annoyed at that mentality, and especially because there was only a few people in my life when I was first starting out, and I was really just trying hard in sound and really doing stuff that did take me under their wing. They did answer questions for me, and they became mentors to me. And now what's kind of nice is that I've gone back and I'm shooting those same guys now emails, and they're like, holy crap, how did you find that out? And I'm like, well, the company reached out to me. And they're like, I've known them for 30 years. They don't reach out to me that way. I'm like, sorry. But a lot of it is because a lot of people at this point in time, they know I'm an educator. They know I really have a passion for teaching. They know that I really enjoy doing this. If I wanted to make videos that would get views, I could do the videos about how to connect your VCR, or not your VCR. There you go. There's a clickbait video for you. You know, how to connect your VCR to your computer. And people probably, if people watch a video of a cat yawning 20 billion times on YouTube, then they would probably love watching me hook up a VCR, sad as that is. But it just seems like a waste of time to do those videos, especially considering there's so many of them. If you want to know how to reset your iPhone, do a search for that. You're going to find 5,000 videos of everyone doing the exact same thing. There are two buttons you press. You press this one, you press this one, you hold for 3 seconds, it restarts. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I don't want to be that guy. I'd rather, I'm like I said, I'm a terrible YouTuber. I do things my own way. I do things that are not necessarily the way that's going to get me the most views, that is going to help me to grow the quickest. Yes, it's irritating when my channel doesn't grow. Yes, it's irritating that I've been doing this almost 3 years, and I see channels where people will put a stream on themselves, or not necessarily a live stream, but they'll put a camera on themselves and they'll talk to the camera. They don't know what they're doing in sound. They don't have a good opinion. They don't say anything unique, and yet and they will just totally now I've totally lost my train of thought because I was too busy hiding all this garbage from dude. But no, I guess the long and the short of it is, I'm not a good YouTuber. I'm more of a person that, one of the reasons I originally started doing sound speeds, one of the reasons is because I was teaching so many classes and having the same people ask me the same things over and over again. And it's like, I just got through explaining that to dude right there. Were you not listening? And it was one of those, sometimes it was people that would ask me a question, and while they were asking me that, someone else was waiting their turn patiently and tuned out. Or I would say, okay, what's your question? And then they would ask me the same thing again. I'm like, dude, you just got through, telling me, the same, asking me the same question. So one of the reasons I started Sound Speeds is so I could say, watch this video. I had people texting me now, not now, but like earlier this week said, hey, Alan, how do you clean an ambient boom? Well, send them a URL. Just look up the video and send it to them. And I go over the cleaning routine as part of that video where I did the repair. So it's like, why bother telling people and spending all the hours doing that when I can just shoot them a video? And then people come to my classes, like this last Sunday, 2 days ago. Today's Monday, isn't it? For a couple more hours? It is Monday, right? Yeah, it's still Monday. So yesterday morning when I was at my class, there were people saying, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know you had a video on that. I'm like, think I do these things just for fun? Just because I like to hear my own voice and talk sound? I'm hoping that I'm actually able to help people, with it. Because I could be doing anything else. I could be, wasting my life away playing games again. But one of the reasons I stopped doing that is because I realized that if I didn't pay my $15 monthly subscription fee, my characters went into into oblivion, and all I had were some stories that I couldn't tell because nobody would be interested. So I started doing sound speeds because I found that it would be a very nice, helpful way of paying it forward, because I've been blessed in many ways too. Whoa, American Liberty! Holy crap! I didn't scroll down there. That's amazing. Thank you so much, dude. Really appreciate that super chat right there. Let me scroll up here because there was some other questions. And just so you know, Aaron, I have talked to people like Bandrew, and it's funny. He says, "What's your strategy?" I'm like, "My strategy? What are you talking about? Do I seem like a guy that that does a strategy? I don't have a strategy for this channel. I say, what would I like to do a video on, and I do it, or I put it in my list and say I want to do a video on that, and then I never do, or have a hard time getting around to it. But there you go. Hey, what's the EIN max XLR gain on the Deity? It's not a recorder. How in the world am I supposed to know? It's not. It's EIN is basically more of a spec you would have on a recorder. We can look up the signal to noise ratio or the dynamic range. That will tell you. Sorry, I have to always crunch up these, flatten them out. Otherwise, it's one of those habits I got into years ago. Sorry for hitting the mic. Actually, that was my C-stand there. Yes, I'm using a C-stand because I have the arms and I have all that stuff. It's just I would prefer to use film stuff. What do you know? The EIN equivalent input noise number is just that's something usually is a spec you see that's related more to recorders and input devices. With regards to microphones, with regards to transmitters and receivers, you're going to more run into dynamic range and signal to noise ratio numbers. So what is EIN? There really isn't one. There's really no. I mean, we could calculate what it would be, based on if you want to see what it would be with relations to noise floor. I mean, we could do that if we knew what the sensitivity was. And the problem is, there's no. I mean, the sensitivity is adjustable on the Duo RX, so there's no way. If you had a microphone that had, let's say, a negative 32 dB noise floor, I would know that if that microphone had a signal to noise ratio of, let's say, 60, which would suck. If it had a 60 dB signal to noise ratio with a negative 30, yeah, you put those together, and that would basically be the equivalent of an EIN of negative 96, negative 92, because you would basically subtract negative 32. I have a video actually about this. Let me find what it is, and I'll post it. But it was what did I call that thing? I always have to do a search for sound speeds first on YouTube to make sure I get to where it is. What was that video? Calculating. And still other people come up in the search results before me. I do a search for sound speeds calculating, and it doesn't come up with my video first. Oh, there it is, way down there. How many down is this? I don't even know. 312 views. Let me. I'll post the link to this in the thing. In the chat window here. Check out this video. I explain it. There you go. Was needing something for an event with a dynamic interview mic that would set me up on the path for a whole kit later. Just use it as a recorder now. Okay. Thanks. Also, ask in passing. I'm going to scroll on down. I sorry, I couldn't really follow that. I presume you saw that he was stealing your box bit at Podcastage. My box bit? I did support 100%. I'm so far behind. I don't know what in the world that's in relation to at this point. Sorry. Why don't you like your own voice master sound speeds? Why don't I like my own voice? Probably because it's high pitched. It's a very I should so make a video to show it. It's so funny. I screw up so many times. I'm not good on camera when I do my videos. You put me in front of a class. It's the weirdest thing. I do not have stage fright. I have stood in front of classes that they've been like, would you be okay if we invited another classroom to it? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why? Well, because we normally don't want people to speak to more than maybe 100 people. Would you be okay if we invited more? I'm like, invite the whole school if I care. Well, we have 2,000 students. Invite them all. I'll put them all to sleep, is what I'll usually tell people. But, you know, it's one of those things where I guess one of the things you can say is I don't have looks, so I have a sense of humor. And so and I do not have stage fright. I was actually originally an actor. I did a lot of stage work younger. I went to a performing arts high school, so it was like the movie Fame. And I did all of that stuff. I was actually in acting, and I was involved with a lot of projects. But because in the world of stage, I wasn't making my interviews. Other people were getting cast instead of me. When I was doing video work, people were not good at the technical aspects of it. So they would say, does anyone know how to operate this? Does anyone know how to do this? And I just was a quick study, and I could figure it out real quick and say, okay, it doesn't intimidate me. I'm not afraid to push buttons until it finally works right. And this is in the day that we had switches on cameras, not menus. Now you have to go in and have to know where in the menu to go to find this thing to unlock a switch or whatever. But back in those days, we're shouting old. But back in those days, it was I ended up becoming a technician out of necessity because no one else knew how to, and we wanted to do these projects together. And so I started to do those projects, and I started to be more behind camera, started doing more stuff behind the camera. But I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be, I wanted to be in front of the camera. I'm just not good at it. When I do my presentation videos, if you watch a video I have called A Look of Sound Speeds with Outtakes, I believe it's what it's called. Hold on one second. I'll post that video too. It shows you, and I only put a few of the outtakes in this video, because if I put them all in there, you would say, geez, why do you do this? If I record a video, that entire 43-minute long video that I just got through releasing this morning, out of everything for that video, it was 6 hours and 13 minutes of raw footage. And of that, probably 15 minutes of those were audio samples, something like that. I'm terrible on camera, and I really I have to edit myself down to the point where people are able to actually stay focused on what I'm saying, and what's funny is when I record, my voice will deepen and then it'll go higher, and as I screw up more and more and more, my voice will get higher and higher as I restart. So I'll say, people online have said that. Okay, messed that up too. People online have said, and I just get higher and higher and higher, and it's one of those things where you can just hear it, you can see it go up and down the timeline, and it's funny. I'm like, geez, and then every now and then I'll reset, my voice will go back down, and I'll say, oh, okay, well apparently that made me lower my voice for whatever reason, and so if you watch my segments, you'll hear that sometimes my voice will start off in the beginning of the video will start off deeper. Throughout the rest of the video, you'll hear my voice get higher pitched, and I'll get faster. But my voice is not great for listening. I mean, if it was I don't have Mike Delgadio's voice. I don't have the voice that would be able to make anything sound good. That's the one thing. I even told Mike this. I was talking to him on the phone one day. I said, you know, the issue I have with your channel is you take a microphone that should sound like crap and you talk into it and it sounds beautiful. I said that's the problem. Is a guy like me can't grab any microphone and make it sound beautiful on my voice. It just does not do that. So I said that's the biggest issue, is that it skews results for me, because I say, wow, that thing sounds great, but then, you know, there's a technique to it. There's part of it's is natural, what you were born with, but you know, you could take Don LaFontaine, the late great Don LaFontaine, who always used a manly reference cardioid, at least in the later years. And if you were to take that manly reference cardioid and had me speak into that, it would sound like garbage. I would sound sibilant and whatever else. But you put my voice on another microphone and it would sound just fine. But I'm not ever going to sound as good as the legends or as Mike Delgadio. So anyway, I really appreciate your videos. I got into location sound about 4 years ago, and no one was around to learn from. I didn't work professionally, but I worked on over 20 short films. That's good, Kevin. That was one of the reasons I started SoundSpeeds, is because when I first started working in film full time, Georgia did not have it's always been, sound has been one of those things where the film industry in general usually tries to keep their secrets. They don't really spread, they don't really talk and share them a whole lot with other people. And because they don't do that, it's very difficult to learn things. You have to go through the school of hard knocks before you get some people's ear, before people really give you attention and start answering your questions. I got lucky because I was in a smaller market and people helped me out. A lot of it I also learned on set by messing up and making a lot of people on set mad. There were some crew members that would intentionally make my life difficult because I was not knowing what I should have known to be on things at that level. At one point here in Georgia, we could not staff up with good crew members more than like 2 shows, and we had 6 running at any given time. And so we would have people come in from LA and be like, geez, this is what you got here? Y'all suck. And a lot of it was just that we didn't have that training. We had not learned stuff. So as I started learning more and more stuff from wherever I possibly could, when I got up to the point where I could teach the basics, I started teaching them. Because I was like, you know, if I can at least teach you the basics, that way you're not going to make us look really bad to people that come in from out of state or whatever. And you can start getting polished by experience, is the way I word it. I say, I can teach you what you need to know, but you won't know what to do and how to implement that knowledge until you get that experience. You need polishing by experience, is what it is, what I always tell people. So, so that's one of the reasons I started teaching a whole bunch of stuff. A lot of the classes that I still teach to this day are the entry-level classes. And people say, why don't you do more advanced ones? I'm like, if I do that, people start dozing off in the class, or they start to, it starts to go over their heads because they're not at that level. And when I talk to people, it's like, I'll talk to people and they'll say, well, can you answer a question for me? And I'll say, sure. Oh, that's a good question. I'll talk with more veterans and we'll talk about things. But as a general rule, I usually teach more basic level classes just because those are the people that really need techniques. A lot of veterans don't come to my classes in the real world. I've offered, some people to come to classes and stuff, and there's always an excuse. Oh, I'm busy. I can't do it. Okay, so I thought the new XLR was a recorder. Yeah, I should add sleep to my strategy, American Liberty. You're right. Hold on one second. I saw X feet from microphone. Saw and X feet from the microphone recently. Oh yeah, I always think it's funny when I see someone borrow one of your bits. Yeah, I don't know when all that happens. I know it does happen. People have told me that even the bigger channels that some of the bigger channels out there will not say something until or give an opinion on something until they see it on another channel. And there's been a couple of products that have come up that people have been nervous about voicing opinion, because if you're the first person you get it wrong, people are not going to like you. They're going to destroy you. I'm not afraid of that stuff. I'll just if you don't like my opinion, you don't have to. Let's see. I thought the new XLR was a recorder, but the firmware in the US makes it either or it's due to patents. It is due to patents. It's Zaxcom's patent. In 2004, they got a patent on transmitting and recording simultaneously. And so in the United States, you cannot get the firmware for that. I'm sure the transmitter is capable of recording on it, but they're not going to unlock that feature because you bought it in America. So there you go. Outside, okay, yeah, outside it is able to record and transmit, or I'm on the wrong product. No, it is 60 dB noise floor, which yes, which would suck. Love that. Another great quote. Yes, I'm full of great quotes that are very direct. Met the Deity HDTX XLR transmitter. Yeah, and that is indeed a. I'm on a premiere, guys. That's great. It's totally great when you come in here and expect us to people to suddenly leave my stream and go and come to you. I'm gonna hide that because it's just so great that you do. You come in here and you start blabbing. I could care less. I don't know what your Luigi's card officials and okay, whatever. Could have sworn that was that you were holding on the thumbnail. Yes, it is. That is. In America, though, you cannot transmit and record simultaneously. Thanks, Rothenium. And it's great to see you in here. Rothenium is another person I did a collaboration with a while back. He's a gamer. Every single day this man is streaming. Rothenium, he is constantly streaming. My daughter we've seen him streaming and we've jumped in, and my daughter has played him live. And it's awesome. If you like, Smash Brothers and every other game out there, I see you streaming every single day in my list, a little red dot next to you. And I'm like, wow, he's out there again. Thanks for popping in here, Rothenium. And yes, I do want to get everything perfect when I say it, because I'm terrible at speaking. When I can speak just fine in front of a class. My brain works really fast. It's that ad-lib brain. But when I'm trying to stick to something that's more scripted, I'll say, okay, fumble a word, restart, fumble it again, restart, fumble it again, restart. And then it takes forever. Last video shot 42 minutes for a 2-minute, 50-second unfinished video, not including any setup or post. Yeah. Sounds very familiar. Love the video outtakes and section you did. Thank you. Yeah, it's not easy when you suck on camera like that. If anyone could do it, Mike wouldn't be making the big bucks. You don't have to have a boot junkie voice. You just have to have a good voice. I like your voice. Oh, thank you. Very easy to listen to and understand. Thanks. A lot of people don't find that to be the case. My wife, when she's watched just a few of my videos, she says you talk way too damn fast. And she says slow it down. And then when I come in here in the studio and I'm like, sound speeds, and it's probably still too fast. Let me try it again. Sound speeds, and I'm going to be discussing the Deity Lavs. I sound like I'm trying to be Richard Attenborough then when I do that. To me, it does not come out naturally. It's like I'm trying to do an imitation of someone. I naturally speak faster. I'm more random. I'm more crazy than that. I can't slow it down and try it, because then I start mocking myself by doing exactly what I'm doing right now in a world where a guy tries to live stream and still I'm talking fast. It's terrible. A lot of video takes. I've already said that. All right. Men with the bass of the God voices can be heard to and listened to and comprehend in a lot of environments. That's something new podcasters don't understand when they crank up the bass. You are correct. That is a great point. I always laugh so hard when I see people do that, when they're like, oh, I want to have that rich voice, and they just crank up that bass. I'm like, oh yeah, because what it does, it makes it muddy. This bass says it all. Doesn't sound good. They think that because they hear all that bass in their voice that it makes them sound good. It doesn't. It doesn't at all. It's terrible. So anyway. I lived in Atlanta during the 70s and 80s. Left there before it started booming, pun intended. Ha ha ha. Alrighty. Well, Kevin, I was going to say, if you're still in Atlanta, I was going to say, shoot me an email. But, because I usually tell people, if you happen to come to Atlanta, let me know. I've tried for a long time to get other people. I've told Mike Delgadio, if he ever comes down here to Atlanta, to let me know. I've told Banju, if he ever comes to Atlanta. I've tried to get other people out here too. The only person that has taken me up on it is Mr. Red Dragon, who I did that. I watched his stream, his content for a long time. And one of the reasons I did an audio upgrade for him in a video is because I got tired of hearing him talking to the AT2020. I was like, you're driving me crazy with this thing. I enjoy listening to you, but that AT2020 doesn't do your voice proud. So I did this upgrade with him, and we upgraded his system. And I thought he would sound a lot better in his environment on a CAD M179. And I just happened to get one for a review. And I did the review, and I said, you know what, this is perfect. I'm going to do a collaboration with him and recommend it and give it to him. And he's done a lot better with it. It sounds so much better on his voice. Mr. Red has a very deep voice, and he's also really funny. He's a crazy guy too. A lot of fun with him. I need to follow up with him. I haven't talked to him in a while. He actually came to Atlanta, and I took him to the set of Walking Dead when I was still on there. I was on season 7 when he came out there. It was maybe season 8. I don't remember. But he came out there when after we did the collaboration. I said, dude, you should come down to Atlanta. I'll take you to the set of Walking Dead. And he's like, sure. And so I got pictures of him there on set. I've told people that, reach out, and if I can take you to set, I will. If you're curious as to how it goes. Sir Lucky Dog, I'm doing okay. Listen at 1.5 and like the speed. I'm looking for your knowledge dump. Thank you so much. It's funny that people have told me, there have been people in the comments of my videos that who have said, you talk too fast. Somebody else has then answered, set the speed on him to 75.75% or 75%. And then he's a lot more manageable. I'm like, wow, I talk too fast for you, so you slow me down. And I talk slower. If you slow down my hyper voice, it's gotta turn slower, and how your voice slows down and sounds really weird. And yeah, it's really interesting. You can technically, you say 1.5 speed. I think technically you're supposed to be able to hear information and process it at about 2x speed before it becomes overwhelming. Some people can go above that, some people can't. It's the same thing with the speech jamming that you can do. If you were to take somewhere, people usually between about 150 and about 400 milliseconds of delay. If you add a delay to yourself, people will do the speech jammer apps or whatever. I bought myself, what is it, a Behringer Shark, whatever, something 1000. It's built for entry level Behringer, but it's made for you to put delays on sound systems. If you're not familiar with why you would need to do that, imagine you're watching a band. They're way up here. Their speakers are right here. And way back here, you have more people listening. Way back here, you have more people listening. If you just have speakers on the stage, that sound is not going to make it all the way back there to the audience. It's going to be a lot lower by the time you add in all the cheers and crowds. So what they do is they have to add more speakers farther back. When they do that, though, they need to add a slight delay on the front of house speakers, the ones that are up next to the band. They add a slight delay there so that way, if they went at the same exact time here, these people would hear in the back would hear a delay, because the speaker would go here and here at the same time. The sound moves through the air, and these people would hear it twice, hitting the mic again. I'm totally pro. But the reason why they add a delay is they add the delay up here. So that way it goes speak sound, and the sound wave goes in the air and it goes boom. Sound is something that you can calculate the delay. And then you can dial it in from there based on temperature, humidity in the air, altitude, all these different elements affect the delay that you would add, and usually it's only a few milliseconds of delay. And this is one of the reasons why bands always use monitor speakers that face them. That way they don't have to hear their own voices reflect off the back wall too. When I used to DJ, if I didn't have monitors, it would drive me crazy when I was playing music and trying to beat match, because I would hear the beat coming off the back wall, and I'd be like, okay, where is it? And if I start bringing it up and I'd hear it, it'd sound like two sneakers in a dryer, clothes dryer, and I'd be like, missed that one up. So I started having a monitor speaker, which is the same thing they do in clubs. They give you what they call a booth level on many different sound mixers that you would use in a club. They have what's called booth level, and you bring it up when you're going to be mixing, and you bring it down when you're not, because you can just listen to the club and it's farther away and you don't care if there's a delay there. But you bring up the booth and it's closer in sound to you, so you hear it louder, and you can beat match to that and everything from speakers that are only a few feet away from you. It's much better. So anyway, that's awesome. Your slow voice has a southern accent. You know what's interesting? I'll slow down for real. If I talk slower, I don't actually have an accent. It's really weird. If you are straight up born and raised in Georgia, you don't really have an accent. Some people who specialize in dialects and accents, they say, oh, no, you do. It's just a whatever. But we really don't. If you go outside of the city into the sticks, that's when you have the voice that people will pull out. People normally don't hear my southern accent in these streams. But I'm from the South, born and raised. If I need to pull out a southern voice, I can certainly do so. It's certainly something that's in my blood. My family on my father's side, they are deep, like in the country. You never do happen to know what they sound like till you can't understand what they sound, because they sound like they were dropped off the back of a turnip truck when they was born. You don't ever hear me talk like that. But we're from the South. We know how to speak that way. We just don't. I'm not good at voices anymore. When I was in high school and I was an actor, I could basically do two things. I could dial in on the what basically was the resonating tone of someone's voice, which is kind of what I now know to be is what the vocal folds in your throat vibrate at. I could basically copy that, and then from there match articulation. And I could usually get pretty close to the way someone sounded. I used to be able to match people fairly closely. And then I stopped doing it. And now I can't do it anymore. It's one of those things where I would go, and I would dial exactly in on whatever that mid-range tone was, and I'd lock my throat in on that. And then I'd copy their mannerisms of speech. Can't do it anymore, though. Yes, I worked sound on The Walking Dead. I was the boom operator on the second half of season 7 and on season 8. So I was there for the all-out war. Negan was introduced in the very last episode of season 6. He really started in at Rick Grimes' people and in season 7, at the beginning of season 7. Well, I was finishing up *Halt and Catch Fire*, season 3. I finished *Halt and Catch Fire*, season 3. I went to the UK for 2 weeks, had no idea what in the world I was going to be doing. And while I was there, I booked a few days on Spider-Man Homecoming. And then I booked Walking Dead, taking over for a boom operator that was leaving to go do another show, which made the sound mixer annoyed. Because you don't leave a show without, unless you arrange it in advance, you don't leave a show. That's just, it's something you don't do. Unless you have permission to, or it's been prearranged. But I went aboard, I did Walking Dead season 7. Then we went on and did Stranger Things season 2. Then I did Walking Dead season 8. And after that I split the rest of that year, 2017, I think it was, doing Cobra Kai and Avengers Infinity War. That's how I basically spent the rest of that year and the start of 2018. And that was basically that was what I did. So those are the kind of shows that I'll work on between shows. If you want to land a bigger show, you have to be available, and I like to keep myself busy. if I'm available for 2 or 3 months, I'll get a call for a bigger show. But you also got to keep in mind that you may work on a bigger show. Those bigger shows like the Avengers and stuff, they'll only work you 10 hours a day. And when they do so, like Avengers was 14 months. Avengers Infinity War and Endgame we shot over 14 months. And I wasn't there the whole time, obviously. I was only there like the last month or so, maybe a month and a half of Infinity War. None of the work I did was on Endgame. Endgame was they came back and did reshoots. But sorry about that. But yeah, none of the work I did on on it was there. Now, a lot of the stuff I was there for the fight scene at Cobra Kai. If you do a search online and you find interviews of people that interviewed the actors for the big fight scene on season 1 of Cobra Kai, you will find that there is, in the background, there's a boom operator that's dressed in an old school 1995 Cobra Kai gi. That was me. Such a fanboy on the whole Karate Kid thing that what I did is I actually have the screen accurate version of it. And I wore it because I was going to be working on the tournament days as the second boom operator. So most of the time I was just going to be hanging out while the primary boom operator, Matt, was doing his thing. But I wore a jacket because it was like freezing. And I came on there, but my pants had the patches down it. And Billy Zabka and the head referee, they were like, "Hey, he's actually wearing the pants from the original." Yeah, they didn't give us the patches on the pants in this in Cobra Kai. They didn't do that. And he's like, "But yeah, he's wearing the actual authentic version." Well, as soon as they were talking about that, of course I had to pull. I went ahead and just threw off the jacket I was wearing too, and I was a little on the cold side, but everybody was down there fighting anyway, and I was running back and forth with the boom, and I was the guy on set wearing the traditional gi from the tournament at Karate Kid, the one that Johnny wore. Here I was working next to Johnny, and I was geeking out. That he and I did the same year. I worked with Billy Zabka on Cobra Kai, and I worked with Sean Astin on Stranger Things. Those two guys, there's like 5 movies that are core to my heart. The Goonies, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, both have Sean Astin in it, and The Karate Kid. Those are 3 of the 5. And I happened to in the same year work with some actors, and I don't fanboy out on a lot of stuff. But I certainly did when I was there with Sean Astin. I was like, "Would you mind if I got a picture with you?" Because I, dude, just, and he was like, and he's just a cool guy. He's like, "Yeah, man, absolutely." And then Billy was the same way. We were free. I worked one day originally. I didn't know if I'd be back because Avengers basically reserved me. They said, "We want you every day." Some days they would say, "We don't need you after all. You've been released." As soon as they release you, they know that you're done. If you're on call with them and you come in and they release you, you know that they're not going to call you back in, because if they do, there's going to be a forced call, and they're not going to do that. But there were times that I was being called to go back and come in for a later call on Cobra Kai. I said, "Yeah, absolutely." I'd go there and I'd work on the show. So when I day played one day on Cobra Kai, I said, I got to take the opportunity to jump in a picture with Billy. So I got a picture of me with Billy on the show, and then I went in. I started doing more and more days, and we did dojo days, and we would do other days. And then when I did the final tournament as an additional a few days, I wore my gi for the big tournament. And at the end of the day, I, of course, asked to get my picture. So I have a picture of me next to Johnny, and I'm wearing the gi from the first movie, and he's wearing the one from this. But that was like that's one of the few moments that, you see someone that you've, that you really enjoy the work of, and that was just a great thing. So there's me ranting again. How do you choose your mic for voices? I usually usually counter program a heavy bass mic to bring out a female, or a less bass heavy mic for heavy voice, for example. A high presence boost for bass heavy voices. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a fan of presence boosted mics. You watch my videos, usually if I hear a presence boost, I'm not overly fan of it. It's very sharp sounding to me. Presence boosted mics, I know they have a purpose. I know what that purpose is. I just, to my ear, I've gotten over it over the course of years. I just don't like hearing that anymore. I would rather hear a flat, accurate representation of the way someone sounds. Yeah, I don't need to hear a bass boost. I don't need to hear a presence boost or an air boost or something. I don't need to hear that. I'd rather it sound natural. So if I record someone naturally, generally with a boom overhead, I will play the microphone in a way that you can play a microphone in ways of reducing or enhancing the bass. Something that you don't normally think of and people don't really talk about a whole lot because they always say, throw the microphone over and it's square up and down. More to it than that. There's a technique to it. And if you want to bring out the bass, there are things that you do to bring out the bass in someone's voice more, male or female. And there's ways of, if you want it to sound less bassy, you can do the exact same thing. And so we try to usually even it out a little bit better. But usually what I try to do is I try to get a microphone that sounds flat, that sounds very full and open. And by that, basically, I mean if it's a flat frequency response type, obviously it's got to have low self noise, and it's got to have what I refer to as openness. It's got to sound not like you're covering over your ears. You want it to sound very accurate, and you want it to sound more like you're listening to someone through the air as opposed to through a microphone. When there sounds like there's almost like someone's talking through a few layers of a shirt, or if it sounds muffled at all, doesn't sound natural, that's when I start to run into issues with the way that something sounds, and I don't like that at all. I would rather it sound natural, and that's what I mean by open. I don't want to hear over crispness. One of the things one of the tricks they use in infomercials, for example, is they do extremely high presence boosts. They'll boost it like crazy because the higher something is, the sharper something is, the more it's difficult for you to turn away from it. It's not just for cutting through a mix. A lot of infomercials are just a high energy person, and their highs are boosted like crazy. And the reason why is because if it's late at night and you're starting to get tired and doze off, one of the ways they'll try to keep your attention is by putting shrill or harsh sounding characteristics to the voice, and that's mainly a presence boost. They do that. Higher pitched sounds you really can't ignore as easily. More deeper soothing voice will put you to sleep. It will relax you. Higher pitched voices will energize you or irritate you, and you won't necessarily think of it as irritation. You'll think of it more as I'm energetic to it. So usually what I will try to do is I will try to pick a neutral sounding microphone that I think will sound good on someone. There are some microphones that I would look at now, and when I hear someone's voice, I'll say, I think this will pick you up, but it's usually less about the bass or about the treble boost, and it's usually more about the clarity that you get out of someone's voice in certain frequency ranges. And that's not coloration. It's more that, like, if someone has, like, a 4017B I mentioned was my favorite microphone. That is extremely clean, very clear. It's just accurate. It's got great reach. It's got it's not got a sharpness that in a bad way. It's got a very focused sound. It's very detailed. I can put that over a male voice. It's going to sound great. I can put it over a female voice. It's going to sound great. Sometimes MKH 416s or MKH 50s or something that you overhead mic with, it sounds way too bass proximity effect. Too much of that. Because you're not doing it from a voiceover position here where the microphone is just dialed in on a small area of your face right here. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people like 416s for voiceovers, because by it being a shotgun, it's just focusing on this part of your mouth. It's not concentrating as much on your chest. It's concentrating here. So whatever comes out of your voice there, it's not going to be muddied up by your chest resonance and things like that. But when you go overhead, you are firing past your mouth and hitting your chest if you do it a couple of different ways. Hello? If you fire a microphone from overhead, you will most likely pick up chest resonance too. And you can either minimize that or increase it based on what you're trying to do. And so typically I will choose microphones based on the characteristics of the sound versus the coloration or how a microphone sounds based on boosts and cuts. Usually it's more clarity based, and I won't hesitate to use the same microphone on everybody in the scene, because it's also got to do with acoustics and what the acoustics do to the microphone too. 1.5x is a casual rate. 2.0 can be taxing fast talkers for me. Yeah, you're right. Also lived in New York, so you don't really want to talk that fast. Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of like golf course, you see some far away. You see someone far away hit the hell out of the ball, but you hear a sound a second later. Yeah, exactly. Have you talked to any of your other voices about float format thoughts? In my other videos about the float format, I think I did in a live stream, but with exception of the last live stream I did, I leave live streams as like one of the very few perks I give Patreons. I have three Patreons. At one point, no, I have four. No, I'm down to three now. One person stopped approving the payments. And then one guy wrote me a letter and said that he was laid off from his job, so he had to stop being a supporter. He says, I'll still be watching your content, but and I said, definitely, dude, take care of yourself first. And, I do have a Patreon, and three people are Patreons. But one of the things I did do is I said, if you pledge for $10 or more, then one of the things you'll have is access to my live stream archive. And in one of my live streams, that's after the first month. I mean, it's like the second month, I think. But I think that it was, I don't remember which live stream it was, but I do go into 32-bit floating point in one of those. I think somebody asked me, it was right as the hype of the F7 or the F6 came out last year around NAB. People were asking me about it. And in a live stream, I stopped what I was doing. I think I was editing a video, and suddenly I got myself distracted 20 minutes and answered the question. But since then, I've developed a lot stronger opinion about things as I've seen things in action. I've seen people make some really dumb mistakes. And that's the reason why I'm going to end up doing a video about it at some point. I already talked about my opinion in this stream about 32-bit floating point. In short, I'm not a fan about it. I'm not a fan of it for most people. For the most part, it's overkill. You have no reason to really need it. A lot of the times people seem to think they will if their voices are going within a regular gain level area. If you're talking very quietly and then suddenly you get very, very loud, you suddenly oh, sorry, I heard a noise. I was wanting to hear what that was. But as a general rule, you don't need it. Back in the world of analog audio, just 10-second version. In the analog world, your dynamic range was a lot less than it is now in the world of digital. And people were able to do just fine with only 15 to 18 decibels of signal to noise ratio. And now we have a lot more than that. And people are so scared of bringing the gain up with a noise floor that you can easily bump out in freeware online. And then they're afraid of writing levels too hot. And then and because they don't do it, that they feel like, they're under driving, and so if they bring it up, it's going to be too noisy. But in all honesty, noise floors, you can easily knock those out with free things, and it's not going to take a whole lot out if you record in a relatively quiet place. So I don't think that you really need to use it under most circumstances. I think it's one of those things that's kind of nice and helpful, but you don't need it. I mean, it's nice and helpful under certain circumstances. If you're going to do speaking with someone, if someone's speaking in my kind of volume and you're recording gunfire, you should technically be using different mics for that gunfire recording anyway. And then record the dialogue on a different microphone and cue off for it, because it's specialty mics. They're for a totally different purpose. So I don't think you need to use it. So that wasn't a 6-second version. Sorry about that. Um, health issues and medications are starting to get to me. I'll catch you later. Oh, okay. Sorry, Nick. You take care. There are a number of interfaces claiming 32-bit and low dynamic range. Something like 109, to be honest, Steinberg, you are 22C can be marketing stink. Well, I think, what is it? I think the physical limitation of a DA converter, I can't remember the exact number right now. I think it's like 122, 128, 122, something like that. I don't remember. There is a physical limitation, but as soon as you get too close to it, it starts to sound less accurate. So that's one of the reasons why companies like Zaxcom that has their Neverclip, what they do is they have two digital audio digital converters that will convert the lows, they'll convert the highs, just like what they do on 32-bit floating point. They'll basically take that to extend the dynamic range, so that way they can record it correctly inside the format. Nothing new. 32-bit floating point's been around for a while. There's also a 64-bit floating point if you really want to go crazy. Record in that. Your DAW probably won't do it, but if you want to record, I know Reaper does have 64-bit floating point. If you really want to go crazy, go for it. It's more accurate than 32. But why bother? Just record in 24. And I have never once recorded in 32-bit. The audio sample I did just for the video that released this morning, for example, where I screamed into the thing and then I blew the hyper whistle into it. All I did was gain down. As a matter of fact, it gained down so much that I ended up having to bring it back up. And still, you don't really notice the noise floor. But I didn't knock it out. It's completely unprocessed in my audio samples. Don't need to worry about that stuff. People seem to panic, or when you follow the trends that you see people online, is because that whole line from Independence Day, just because it could doesn't mean that they should, or what is that line? They didn't stop to think that they should. Maybe that's Jurassic Park. Yeah. Just because they do it because they could, without stopping to think if they should, whatever the line is. That is very true. A lot of the times people will there are people, let me tell you one thing about being on YouTube and doing reviews. Manufacturers will try doing things and trying to, I don't want to say they try tricking you, but they'll sometimes send you information. They'll say, oh, this is a brand new product that's really cool. People are saying this and this and this about it. Well, if I want you to say sound speeds, sound advice from a pro sound guy, which is kind of the tagline I have for my channel. If I were to say that and then say, oh, people have said, I'm sound advice by pro sound guy. People say that about me. All it takes is one person saying it, and then I say, yeah, he said it even. That's what they want you to do. If they send out key phrases or power phrases, or these are things that people have said about our microphone or about our whatever. If they send me a list like that, I instantly ignore everything on there, and I will intentionally not put any of that in my video. That Synco Mic D2 that I was sent, I think, I know Bandrew, I know other people have received them, and they have seen that people have referred to it as an option for a 416, or basically trying to get people to call it the 416 killer, which I know was the name of Delgadio's video. But as soon as one person says it like Delgadio, then they're going to start saying it's the 416 killer, as said by Mike Delgadio, or whatever the case may be. I'm just throwing that out as an example. I don't think that they do, but I don't think they're using that quote by him. But it is the equivalent of doing that. Manufacturers will do that because they want you to say something about their product like that. As soon as someone says the power phrase, or whatever their marketing department or whoever put it out there, as soon as someone says it, they got you. They're like, oh, well, this was now quote, and they'll quote you on saying that. This came up to actually, I won't give that as an example, but it's the same exact thing. People will send out something and say, this is what people have been saying about it. Manufacturer sends me that list, I will not do it. I will not say anything on that list. I will give it my own thoughts and quotes. I don't play those games. Okay. but yeah, I think I circled all the way back around, and I just need to bring it back together. A lot of people do their advertising the extended dynamic range and that they can do 32-bit float recording and stuff like that, and that's fine. I mean, if you want to advertise it and brag about that, that's fine. Go to it. Do people need it though? If I have a recorder right here and I have the ability to record 96 channels, let's say, does that mean I need to have every possible track I possibly can filled up with something to use them and have all those tracks armed every time I record? No. You record the tracks you need. You arm the ones you're going to be using. Same exact thing on 32-bit float. You only use it when you need it, but manufacturers of products that want you to buy it because an interface will say we're compatible with 32-bit floating point, others aren't. They're going to try to use that as a selling feature because people are hyping about it because of the F6 or because of the Mix Pre 6, 3, 6, or 10T 2. Not necessary. Not necessary at all. Any advice for stretches or exercise for the back? I love inversion tables. I used to have an inversion table, and then I sold it to another boom operator who didn't have room for it in his apartment and put it outside. When I was like, oh, that's such a terrible thing. You can find good ones on Amazon. You can find good ones in, I was about to say Sears and Roebuck. That tells you how old school I am. Get the big Sears catalog. Then they started charging for it. It was like, why are you charging $5 for it? I used to go in there and grab the old Sears catalogs. They had like a wall of them. Go in there and I'd grab one and I'd walk through. And then one day they said, excuse me, sir, that's $3. I'm like, $3? You're going to charge me $3 for your catalog, for your advertisements? They're like, it's not advertisements, it's our catalog. It shows you what you want to buy. I don't need to buy spend $3 for that. Anyway. Oh, what was I saying? What was I saying? Exercises. Inversion tables, love them. You can hang upside down like a bat, and it decompresses your spine. It stretches your spine out, so that way you can really get a good stretch. And I used to have the inversion table right next to my bed in there, and what I would do is I would invert myself, stretch my spine out, unclip my feet, and flop over in bed and sleep overnight, and I would keep my back fully stretched out. I love it. It's very, very good. And back rollers that you can get that are for rolling your up and down your back, those are also very helpful. What I found though is you don't want to roll on them. Put your feet on the ground and put your knees up and then go back and forth like this to roll it up and down back. Don't do that. Start on the lower part of your back and then just completely relax and pretend like you were trying to become jello over top of the thing. You're going to find that your weight naturally distributes. You're going to start to relax over it as opposed to staying stiff and rolling up and down your back. By relaxing over it, then after you'll feel a pop or two as your body adjusts to it, then you roll down a couple of inches and then you freeze there. You relax. If you find that it's too hard holding your neck up at an angle, get a pillow and put it underneath the back of your head just to help support your head. But still, your weight is going to still be on the back roller, and that's going to give you great results. Between those two things, inversion tables and back rollers, I think that they're both great. Things that are creams, Bengay, Icy Hot, BioFreeze, those are more like temporary fixes. One of the big issues that people will have is that you'll hurt yourself. I hurt my foot on this last show I did, and you have to fight the urge to limp on it or to favor by shifting all your weight onto the other leg or to put it up. If you put it up and it's not a bone break or if it's not a torn muscle or ligament, then what you're doing is more harm to your body because you're not working through the injury. You're not working through the sore muscle. And it's not, like I said, tears, bone breaks, you can't work through those. You got to let them heal. But if you get a bruise, it's a bad thing for you to put and shift your weight onto one foot in order to try to compensate. As soon as you find yourself doing that, you find what you're actually going to be doing is wearing down your other leg by standing on it the wrong way or something of the case. Now, what the BioFreeze, the Icy Hots, what those do is if you throw out a muscle at work because you just, it was a very rough day, before you take your shower, not necessarily after, because then you got all that grease on you. Put it on there, let it soothe and relax. And what that's going to do is it's going to relieve some of that pressure. So that way, if you relax, you're not going to be trying to compensate by walking on one leg or by limping or shifting onto something else. Because you do that, you're going to be throwing yourself off worse. So that's why you would use one of those. You use one of those patches that helps out. Those kind of things help a whole lot too. Just remember that if you pull something cold, reduces swelling, but you want to soothe something. You want to soothe something. That's when you put on something hot. So cold to prevent swelling, and then hot, relaxes. So keep that in mind. People will say, "Oh, I'm gonna put cold on it." Don't put cold on it if you're gonna freeze a muscle if it doesn't need it. I like the dingy outfit you wore on the Walking Dead sets. Thanks. Went to high school with Billy Zabka. He is such a gem. He's a really awesome guy. He was a senior when I was in 10th grade. We ran 2 television production classes together. He's an awesome guy. He has so much knowledge and experience. Wish I could learn from you and work in the industry. Thanks. Oh, Curtis has shown up. I don't know if he's still in here or not. 32-bit float is with multi ADCs is a specialty tool, and it can be helpful for solo shooters. Yeah, it can. Love your shouting last video. Heard someone young walking with slippers around you, Alan. When was that? Was that in here? Because it was not someone. If you're responding to when I took my headphones off, listened, that wasn't someone walking around with slippers. That was my wife downstairs, I guess, or either somebody's broken in if she's upstairs. But it was no, oh well, I should go and check it out, shouldn't I? Fail as a male. But it was that she was, probably boxing up or bagging up some stuff that she was putting in a trash bag or something. And I'll go downstairs tomorrow. I'm going to go and see my 94-year-old grandmother tomorrow, and we're going to watch. I used to, when I was a kid, if I were sick or after school, I would go to my grandmother's house, and she would basically sit there with me. And one of the things we would always watch is I would watch Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood at her house. And when I got older and no longer was watching Mr. Rogers because, I would get out of school too late or whatever, I always had fond memories of watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood with her. Well, that movie, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, came out recently. You may say, well, you don't, how are you going to go see that? It's not on video yet. I have screeners. I'm a member of the Cinema Audio Society. And I have been for a few years now. So I'm sent screeners for shows. Sometimes stuff that's not been released yet, I'll have the screeners for. When movies are in theaters, I can go and see those too. But I'm invited to screener to see shows in California or in New York or where are the other cities they usually are. Usually London, other ones too. They'll send you invites to those. If you want to go to them, you can. They're not going to fly you out there for it, but you have the option if you're in town. New York, LA, London, and I think is it San Francisco? I can't remember the other town. But yeah, it wasn't someone walking around. It's my wife downstairs probably playing with a bag. I want RF64 to work its way down to consumer-grade equipment like the Roadcasters and the Mix Pre. This is more useful than 32. Yeah. Honestly, I'm not overly familiar with RF64. I don't know what that is by that name, at least. If you told me what RF64 is, I may say, oh, it's I may know by a different name, but I don't know what RF64 is when you mention it that way. And that quote's from Jurassic Park, the one that I said from a long time ago. More useful than 32-bit float. Rodecaster Pro is designed for beginners, and you can't disarm tracks. If it records multi-channel, it records all 14 tracks. It's broadcast wave and clunks every 35 minutes at the 4 gig limit. Thinking as consumers will forget to armor track. Well, that even happens in the pro world too. It's one of the reasons why the Scorpio developed the ability to arm and disarm tracks on the fly, because we have long takes now. Directors aren't cutting anymore. We'll do 3 takes, reset back to 1 every single time, and not cut. and then a director will suddenly change something. Hey, you say this now. Oh, that person's not on a lav, and now we're still in a wide shot. We don't have that. So Curtis just said R64 is a WAV format that with the right file system can save files larger than 4 gigabytes. R64 is a WAV. I see. I've never heard of that. Remember, I'm a boom operator. I'm not familiar with it. I'm not really a post guy. I learned quite a bit of post stuff from post people and going to post classes and talking to some of the best guys in the industry. I'm also not a mixer. So if you ask me time code, sure, I can tell you about that. You ask me how to mix, I know basics on that. You ask me to explain some of the nuances of mixing and stuff, that's not what I do. It's not my specialty. Just like if you ask me about consumer grade audio stuff, I'll won't fully understand it because I don't follow a lot of consumer stuff. People ask me about, I've never heard of that before. Don't know what it is. Oh, it's the thing that was released 3 months ago. Oh, sorry, I don't know what it is. And it's not me trying to be, oh, I'm elitist or whatever. It's just me just not knowing. I get caught up very much in my own little world and put my blinders on. And I also ignore the media. This is one thing that drives my wife crazy. I ignore the news. A few years ago, I used to get myself so riled up in the morning. I'd get behind the wheel. I'd go to work. I'd turn on the radio and be like, by the time I get to work, I'd be wanting to strangle somebody. How could people be so stupid in the world? And I would get myself amped up and I'd get into arguments and just I was a nightmare. So what I decided to do is take a week off and listen to an audiobook on my way into work. And when I finished that audiobook at the end of the first week, I suddenly realized it wasn't one audiobook I listened to. I listened to an entire 3-book series, and it was a month and a half. And I said, I don't miss the news at all. I did not know that Donald Trump was running for president until he was running against Hillary, since he had already gotten through everything, and it was down to him and Hillary. I did not know that. You're like, how could you not know that? Well, I didn't. I only know that Kobe Bryant died yesterday, was it? Or today? Because somebody posted about it on Facebook. It's the only reason why I know. And people were blowing up about this. I miss so much because I turned off the news. I got tired of stressing out about it. And I'm like, when it gets near election time, I'll start doing my research. I'll start to say, who do I need to vote for? Who do I want to vote for based on what my beliefs are, and I'll vote accordingly. But one thing I will not do is, just for the sake of voting, I won't just show up there unresearched. I'll at least do my research, and then I'll go back into my cave and completely ignore the world again. And that's just because that's me. That's who I am. I just like to ignore the politics and the whole craziness of everything, because it's not worth the stress. It's not worth me stressing out and saying, I can't believe this person believes in this and this person. There's nothing I can do about any of that stuff. Sure, I can vote. I'm one voice. What am I going to do? Suddenly get on a YouTube channel and start ranting and raving about politics? No. We have too many of those. Plus, all it takes this day and age is one person not liking your stuff and they give you a strike. And then somebody else doesn't like you and then they'll give you a strike. And suddenly you can't do YouTube about it anymore. It's, I'm not going to bother going there. I don't care enough about that. I would much rather talk about sound with you people. And just talk about things that are fun in the world and talk about interesting experience. I'd much rather you ask a question that would serve you a purpose that you would benefit from than just blab about politics and stuff that we're just going to stress ourselves out about. It's like, I can't convince you to change religions. I can't convince you to change politics. So why stress myself out about it? I can't convince you. There are some things in this world you cannot convince someone, easily at least. I'm certainly not going to be able to do it on a live stream or in a YouTube video. So I would rather stick to something that I can definitely do. Is a file for, okay, so RF64 is a file format that Scorpio with 8EX. Okay. All right, cool. I good for the Scorpio. Um, I mean, they recently won a CAS award for best product. Personally, I've even said this online that I am by no means an authority on what I'm no one that people's opinion is based off of. I'm not a voting member of anything. But personally, I was very surprised to see that the Zaxcom Nova did not win. The Nova is an ingenious device, personally, in my mind. It is a small recorder, lightweight. It has 8 channels of wireless that you can put straight in the back end modules. Everything is in this little bitty box that you can put in there. It's lightweight. It's all contained. It's got ZaxNet. You have the ability to remote record while transmitting. It's completely digital wireless. Zaxcom created a masterpiece with this thing. Everything about it is, I hate saying the word game changer, but the God's honest truth of it is very much a game changer, because it changes the workflow of bag mixers, where instead of having a mixer and a separate recorder and all these different transmitters that are stuck around the receivers, and then you go and put a transmitter on somebody, and then you still have all these extra cables going out here and here and here, and the BDS and the power and the all that stuff, it's all reduced down to only a few cables now. And sure, you're still going to have your transmitters, but it is so much streamlined because of the Nova. And I was so surprised when I heard that they didn't win the award for product development. I was actually like, wow. And I heard that Scorpio got it, and I was like, wow. I mean, more power to sound devices. They make great products. I mean, I own some myself, but it's like, but it was it's one of those things where I was very surprised by that personally. Just but then it's just my personal thoughts and opinions. Hello, first time live stream. Great, welcome aboard. Always makes you feel news always makes you feel sad. Yeah, the only show the most depressing stuff. That's true. It's actually one of those things that's really interesting. There's a video. What is it? It's on YouTube. It's called Compare. It was like during the whole Ebola thing, like 6 years ago. It was the way that the US versus the UK covered it. And the video is straight up accurate. It was like, in the UK, they're like, there's been a few cases of the Ebola, whatever. It's the United Kingdom says it's, doctors or whatever it is. Oh, it's nothing to be worried about or concerned about. We'll let you know if there's any other developments or some reason to stress about it. And then you look at America and they were like, the Ebola crisis, it's coming. You be aware. It's scary at that point. Geez, why panic yourself? Why freak out? It's just... One of the quotes I really love from Dusk Till Dawn is, it's not a big deal until you make it a big deal. That is straight up accurate. It's like, if you want to make something a big deal, it will become a big deal, but you don't need to make it a big deal. It just, so much things in the world, it's just not worth stressing about. I'd much rather talk about happy things, about fun things. I'd rather help people, be silly, joking. I'm a prankster. I'm a total troll. If you watch or listen to the Banjo Says podcast, every now and then it'll pop up with something that I will have produced or something, and just to troll Banjo, just because it's in my nature to naturally troll people. I'm naturally a pranker. There you go. News always makes you feel sad. Yes, I've already read that one. I do coverage of political events and protests. I get to mix them. Well, good. Pay the bills. Definitely a good thing. More power to you, man. If you've ever... Dave's Audio Corner. Dave Fisk. He used to be work at K-Tech. I think now he works for... Is it Sound Guy Solutions? Dave Fisk did a really cool interview with Senator Mike Myers, and Curtis Judd, who's in the stream right now, he's in the comment section. He did a really cool interview with Mike Myers. Not Mike Myers. Jeez, Mike Michaels, Senator Mike Michaels. But the conversation that Dave Fisk had with him was just amazing. It was like a 2.5 or 3 hour long conversation. You want to talk about a very weird gearhead out there? He is such a neat character. He was talking about the guy that played that was reading Rainbow, and that it played the dude on Star Trek that had the little visor. He was directing a show, and they were flying out to an active volcano, and they were like, okay, we're going to be shooting here. It got near the end of the day. They had 2 helicopters, and because of all the gear and everything, and they said, we don't have the room to bring back 2 of you, so we need to leave 2 people here. And because it's getting dark and the winds are picking up, we're not going to be able to come back and get you tonight. So you're going to have to sleep on this volcano. He tells this story. So Mike and this other guy, of course, throw the sound guy on to stay on the volcano overnight. He said the ground was hot, but they slept on a volcano just because. I mean, and he was like the guy. He had done some projects with O.J. Simpson. So when it came down to covering the O.J. Simpson group, it used to be that when you were doing news stuff, it wasn't like before things got ruthless with the paparazzi showing up and following you, trying to ask you questions while you go to Starbucks. It wasn't like that. When the O.J. thing would happen, if O.J. was going to be in his house every single day, the media would be told, OJ's not planning to leave, and we'll let you know if that changes. And they would say, okay, we're out. But if they were like, OJ's going to be, they would come out first thing in the morning. They'd say, yeah, OJ's going to be in, and then probably around 1 o'clock, he's going to be leaving and going to such and such. They would come out and they would tell the news crews a courtesy. That way, people didn't feel the need to be pushy. That way, people were like, this is when we're going to get our footage. They would make sure they were prepared. And it was a lot more human back then in many ways, too. Mike tells this story of how OJ was the gift that kept on giving to him, because he was hired from a few different things, and he did some stuff with OJ. And then when the whole when OJ was in hiding in his house during before the trial and during the trial, he was the guy that was running sound for the news crews that were out there. So he was out there, and OJ was like, "Oh, hey." And then when the second trial came up, he was back, and OJ was like, "Hey, how's it going?" But one of the reasons why he's Senator Michaels now is because he was at the point where he would go someplace and people would say, no, not your title. I don't want your title. I want your name. But he would go places, and sometimes he would find himself and say, Senator. And he's like, Senator is always a title that people would recognize, and people would always say Senator. It wasn't Mr. It wasn't Master. It wasn't any of that. It was Senator. And he was like, I'm going to change my name to Senator. So he changed his name to Senator Mike Michaels. And, he's such a character. So much fun to listen to. A technical geek with an old school love for the old school tech. And he's brilliant to listen to. But do a search on, I should almost do it myself. But if someone looks it up, it's Dave's, I think it was Dave's Audio Corner or Dave Fisk and Senator Mike Michaels. He talks to him for like 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours. And after the first 30 minutes, he is just, you could listen to him for hours because his stories are just nonstop. Just like, wow, the stuff this man has done and the crazy stuff he has seen and experienced is amazing. LeVar Burton, that's his name. Thank you. It's even more depressing than watching the news, by the way. But the dark humor among the crew we use to retain our sanity is priceless. Yeah. That's pretty much any show. That is very much any show you work on. The crew will cut up with each other, and we'll joke. And you'll work overnights, and it's coming up on 5 a.m. and you'll have the actors are getting loopy and tired because you've all been there 16 hours, and they're having to perform, and their eyes are like bug-eyed and everything, and everyone else is just like giddy with laughter. And I was on a show, I won't name it, but one of the actresses had an early morning call the next day, and they said, well, we got to get the other pieces of coverage for this scene, but we've already got the wides, we've already got all the shots she'll be in, and she's starting us next day morning. We don't have to have a 12-hour turnaround if we can get her off the clock early. So let's go ahead and wrap her. She'll leave, and then we can finish out the last hour shooting with the crew and the other cast members that are not going to be coming in the next day. When we did that, the person they had reading the voice for that actress was a girl who, she is such a sweet girl, but she has a deep Southern accent. And after a 16-hour day when it was 5 a.m., it was hilarious. And the cast were like, they were on camera trying not to laugh, and they couldn't. They could not keep it together. The first lady comes in there, I need you all to focus. I need you to calm down and really just settle down. Okay, we got to get this scene. The cast was not able to pull it together. They were laughing too much. And the poor girl, they felt bad later. They ended up apologizing to her. But it's just like, because they just, at that point of the day, hearing her talk so country, I mean, it was funny. We were all laughing. We were laughing more at the cast that was laughing because they thought her accent was funny. The crew normally will stay together. We'll normally not laugh because we'll stay focused and don't want to distract an actor. But when the actor is starting to lose it, and then everyone is, she was even she realized it was because of her voice, and she was laughing too. But I mean, everything's funny after you work 16 hours every single day of the week. It's crazy. So anyway, so all I'm doing is telling stories at this point. We have 16 people in here. If there's any questions you have or anything, you have one of the giants of YouTube here regarding sound. Not me. I'm talking Curtis Judd. He's also in the chat here. If there's any questions anyone wants to ask, by all means. If not, I've been blabbing for 3 hours here. Now, Andrew from Deity was going to join us at one point. He had actually, I had asked him if he would join for the stream, because originally in the Deity forum, there was a lot of people that were asking questions, and I couldn't answer all of them. So I asked if he'd be willing to join. But then those people, only one person from the conversations earlier were actually here. And the rest of them didn't show up. So he wouldn't have been answering, a whole lot of questions anyway. Or who knows, maybe once people knew that he was here, they would have joined too. But anyway. So I guess there's no more questions. It is now 12:34 a.m. If you have not yet watched my video, which was testing all the Deity Lavs, that video took me 12 days to actually make, and I lost a lot of sleep while doing that. I did a lot of tests. I would go to locations, record sometimes it was not the right time of day, so I'd come back later. I would think of another test I want to do, trying to go outside, and then suddenly it was raining too much, and so I couldn't go outside and do the walking test. Then later it was too breezy, and then I was like, well, I have to take my daughter to a doctor's appointment, so I couldn't do that. It was crazy. Anyway, so, well, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll call it there. Had a good stream. Again, this is gonna go into the unseen archive. So as soon as we're done with this, it will vanish forever. So if there's anything you want to see, go back, and I leave it in DVR mode while I'm here, but definitely go back and watch it now, because it will be disappearing from the interwebs very soon. But thank you very much for tuning in and spending some time with me on a Monday? It is a Monday, right? It's technically a Tuesday now where I am. So anyway, y'all take care. Again, thanks for coming out, and I guess I'll see you in the next stream at some point.